What is up, everyone, and welcome back to some more Higurashi. Now, it has been a hot minute since I recorded. I'll be honest. It's been over a week. It's been a solid 9 days since I last recorded, and I apologize for that large gap in uploads. I don't typically like to go that long without recording anything. I'm gonna just level with y'all. I got mad addicted to playing Tomodachi Life, and it absolutely ruined my sleep schedule. I am trying my best to get things back on track, so hopefully not gonna have any more gaps like that going forward here in the near future, unless something like actually important happens. So where we had last left off in Higurashi, Keiichi finally decided to finally take out Satoko's uncle. Finally decided to do the deed, take him out for good. But then the next day, everyone acts like nothing happened. Everyone acts like he was at the festival. They start recounting events that happened in the previous chapters. And it seems like there's some kind of cover-up going on, from what I can tell. But Satoko herself is claiming that the uncle's still alive, that he never left the house. But also we saw from Oishi's point of view that he did leave the house. So like I don't know what the truth is. I'm very confused as to what's actually going on. Then Keiichi went to Irie's clinic, went to go see Irie because he had made up a lie to like Reina and Mion because they were going evil mode. He's like, yeah, I'm going to go to the clinic. Don't even worry about it. I'm just not feeling well. I just don't want to hang out with you guys today. He goes to the clinic, ends up not being able to, remain calm under pressure, ends up telling Irie everything, but then he eavesdrops on Irie's conversation, and Irie thinks he's gone mental, thinks he's got some bipolar disorder or multiple personality disorder going on, something going on, so he's trying to crack down. So he plans to, knock him out, but because Keiichi overheard the conversation, he jumps out the window, and that's where I last left off. I left off like right in the middle of the chase scene, which was a terrible place to leave off, especially if I was going to have a long ass break in between. But without further ado, let's jump back into the chase. Well, actually, it's not quite a chase yet. Right now, it's just an escape attempt, right? He snuck out the window, got in his bike, and started pedaling away. As of right now, no one's chasing him. I'm sure it's going to change here shortly, but as of right now, it's just an escape, not a chase. The pedals clattered under the force. My bike always creaked like this. Did the pedals always whine every time I pushed down on them? My bike wasn't the only one crying, though. My tears fell as the wind cut through them. They rode the breeze and scattered behind me. I hate this. I hate this. I'm not the crazy one. Hinamizawa is. How dare you treat me like a madman? Die. Die. Just fucking die already. I believed you. I believed you. I'd gone to the hospital in order to escape Reina and Mion's invitation, but the reality that was waiting for me had been too cruel. Who was insane? Me? Or Hinamizawa? See, that's what I'm struggling to figure out. Or was the answer something else? It's probably something else. Because that's the thing, when you went to go see Irie noted that he had, scratches all over his body. And he's like, yeah, that was from me running through the forest. This is, essentially physical evidence that I was doing that shit last night. I started having trouble breathing. I didn't have any clue what was happening anymore. The loud chirps of the Higurashi were irritating me. Or even the Hinamizawa Higurashi I knew so well calling into the wind? No, that wasn't quite it. They weren't calling. They were crying. The pained wailing of those lost in some kind of rhythm, in another world, no longer able to return to their own sunlight. I didn't do all that to end up in a world like that. And actually, at about this time, I might have been having fun with everyone else. Satoko would have gotten her smile back after realizing her uncle would never come home. She might have shown it to us at our first club meeting in a while. That was the kind of world I wished for. So what was this? Why did I end up in such a strange, ghastly world. Someone I'd killed was living like normal, and I had enjoyed myself at the festival despite not being there. I don't want it. I don't want this strange world. When did it start to go wrong? When? When? No matter how much I thought about it, I never understood. I rode swiftly and returned to my home. Ooh, it's raining out. Interesting. You know, I kind of thought, like, at some point he might pedal back to the woods to see if, like, the body was actually still there. Or, like, see if you could actually see signs of, like, shit that had happened, right? Or if nothing else, like, go to Satoko's place and see if you can see the motorcycle. Because, I mean, that's a pretty surefire sign. If the motorcycle's still there, then, like, clearly you did something to it, or at least something happened there. It began to rain during my journey back. Just like yesterday, I was now soaked. But I didn't care about something so trivial right now. The pain I felt in my heart that Coach, the one person I trusted, was acting so cruelly, was far worse. Did I have no allies in Hinamizawa anymore? With that naive thought, that I at least wanted my parents to side with me, I stepped up to the front door. Wait. Geichi. It'll be dark soon. There's something you want to check, right? Yeah. Yes. I wanted to dig up the man's corpse and get a look at his back. If there was a tiger tattoo there, I would know beyond a doubt he was Satoko's uncle. That long night wouldn't end until I was certain. If this insane world was all reparation, all a divine punishment, I needed to make certain whether I had been successful enough to even deserve to pay that price. I went to the storage room again and got the shovel. It had been washed in the rain, but the paint was peeling, making it look unsightly. I never, ever wanted to touch this thing again. The sensation of it in my hands was totally different from the night before. There was a ruthless coldness about it. Yeah, it would be dark soon, so I'd need the lantern too. There'd be a little bit of light from the street lights, but it would get extremely dark. Thought I'd put the lantern here, but I suddenly noticed it wasn't anywhere to be found. Then it hit me like a bolt of lightning. Of course, on that night, I hadn't brought the lantern back with me. I'd left it at the place I buried the body. If I didn't go get it soon, it would get very dark. And then, not only would I be unable to find the spot I'd buried the corpse, I wouldn't even be able to find the lantern itself. If that happened, it was all over. Now see, he's going back to the spot where he buried the body. There's still a chance for what I expected to happen before, where he ends up falling into the original grave he dug. That could still happen. I'm still waiting on that one. In order to fit the shovel in the basket of the front of my bike, I need to twist it and disassemble it. But it looked like there was dirt in the joints. No matter how hard I pushed, it didn't want to come apart. After strenuous effort, I realized I couldn't get it apart, so I decided to hold it in one hand and ride my bike with the other. Yeah, because that worked out for you last time, didn't it? With the downpour soaking me through, and a shovel in one hand, and riding one-handed, it was as if I'd returned to that night. Yeah, I kind of picked up on that. No, return was the wrong word. It was more like that night had never ended. The pain of the raindrops striking me were no different from then. The thing that was different was Hinamizawa, the world, and nothing else. The rain clouds were already making it dark, and now it was about time for the sun to set. I could tell it would only get rapidly darker. Straight road leading to town, in the middle of it. That should be where I buried it. Yes, it was near that street light. On that night, too, the water from the downpour was splashing down the street light's overhang like a waterfall. The pouring rain was exactly the same as it had been that night, and thus it brought my memories into focus. I left my bike in the brush and stepped into the forest, the ground already soaked with mud. Where had I buried him? Think. The darkness, the shadows, the water, the mud. Everything was the same. Think. And then, I spotted the lantern by a fallen, moss-covered tree. That's right. I left it right there. If I left the lantern here, then I would have buried him over here. With the sensation of standing in the sludge, my feet remembered the spot better than my eyes did. I plunged my shovel into the ground. It's hard. It wasn't here. I just dug it up, so it should have been softer. I stick my shovel down in a few spots to test what they feel like. One of them clearly felt deeper. I recalled where the lantern was, where the trees and things were in relation to each other, and knew that it had to be here. Under here slept that man's corpse. There would definitely be the tattoo of a tiger on his back. But if it wasn't there, then I had made a horrible mistake and killed someone completely unrelated instead. I would be more dazed at the fact that Satoko's uncle wasn't dead than I would have regret having gotten someone else mixed up in this. If this insane world was punishment for the sin of committing murder, I wouldn't be able to accept it until I'd killed Satoko's uncle for good. And then, without any fear, I'd attack him again. And that time, I would kill him for sure. But what if the tattoo was there? That'd mean I'd killed Satoko's uncle. But that would be terribly strange. If I'd killed him for sure, then who was the uncle at Satoko's house this very moment? Impossible. I don't even know anymore what I was using the word impossible to refer to. I've used the word quite a few times today. If I had to make the words impossible fit just one thing, what would it be? That much was obvious to me. I shouted, then turned behind me. There was nobody there, of course. It hadn't been bothering me for a while. Those footsteps had followed me this entire day. Even just now, an extra set of footsteps had splashed behind me. No one was actually there. No indications of anyone, even. But they were there. That's right. Thinking back, first time I heard those footsteps was after Takano-san and I had parted. Those footsteps were my welcome into this strange inside-out world. No one could be there. I'd get no response. Whoever it was, they just kept staring at me. Okay. So there is something about those footsteps that is like a hint as to something that's going on, right? Because that's kind of like that was kind of like a key turning point in the first chapter as well, right? He ended up like destroying his entryway to his house because he thought there was someone standing right behind him. He heard the footsteps that were, right behind him. So he ended up swinging wildly and like wrecking his entryway. There's something to that. I don't quite know what, but there's definitely something to that. There's definitely something to the fact that those footsteps appear shortly before the world, like, gets very fucking crazy. I don't think we saw something like that happen in the previous chapter. That's the thing. Part of me is starting to think like it's a sign that he's suffering from some kind of hallucination, some kind of delusion, and that maybe, and that's why he starts to see his friends in these very weird lights, right? When he starts to see their eyes shift in a very strange way, it's some kind of breaking point for him. But that's the thing, with this chapter, there kind of like is a breaking point, right? With like the death of the uncle, him, crossing that line and taking a life. That's not something we saw in the first chapter. It almost felt like it was just a delusion built out of his own paranoia in the first chapter. Whereas this one, it seems to be more representative of like, I don't know if guilt is quite the word. Maybe it is guilt and he just can't register that. He doesn't want to admit that he feels remorse for taking a life because he wants to believe that this person had to die no matter what. There's definitely something to those footsteps though. It wasn't ominous, just unpleasant. After staring into empty space for a bit as I bathed in the rain, my illogical anger slipped away. My tension loosened, and a tired feeling reared its head. I tasted this feeling that night too. The sudden exhaustion I felt as the tension in my brain loosened. My vision quickly narrowed, and I felt like everything around me had suddenly gotten darker. I couldn't give in to this sensation. I would light what little explosives were left in my brain and force myself to keep going. I needed to dig that man up before my stamina ran out. I needed to see the tattoo on his back. I caught my suddenly ragged breath and calmed down. Then, I stuck the shovel into the soft, muddy ground again. It felt exactly the same as that night. The sense of digging a hole in the beach with water coming into it with every wave. What day was today? Had I gone back to the night of Watanagashi? Every strange thought that came to my mind tormented me. Given my exhaustion, I didn't think I could manage to hold those thoughts back. Once the hole was deep, all illumination finally faded, blanketing my vision in jet black. It was probably the moment the sun had finally set too. That night, I'd feared the worst and gone without using much light. My senses were so strained that I could see even in that darkness. But now, I didn't have that kind of strength left. I drained everything I had last night, and now the darkness would be lethal. I decided to turn on the lantern. Putting it on the first setting would make it give off a faint light. Even with how little there was, it was enough. People wouldn't be able to see it from far away in this rain. I grabbed the chilled lantern, turned the dial with a click, set it to the weakest light setting, and turned it on. An uncanny world of silhouettes appeared before me. A complex and strange shadowy world created by the intricate entanglement of trees and branches. I'd only turned on a light, and it was like that was all it took to make the world into something else. I allowed a quick, tired breath and wiped the liquid, neither rain nor sweat, from my brow. Then I raised the shovel into the air and slammed it into the mud. That moment, the silhouettes surrounding me ominously all moved at once. Inside my head, something packed in there, something coarse, but not hot or cold, was loudly rushing about. The silhouettes were all around me, looking down at me. And one of them, a silhouette bigger than the others, stepped forward.
こんばんは。月の綺麗な晩ですね。
See, that's another thing. I thought that's kind of something I was keeping in the back of my mind, right? Because Oishi said that they saw Teppei leave the house that night. So, like, part of me was thinking, like, are they monitoring the area? And if so, like, clearly Keiichi is acting weird and out of sorts, even if they don't know if Oshi is actually in on it, like we were starting to think, like, then definitely. But even if he isn't, like, you notice this one villager is moving really weird, like moving really strange, acting really weird, while everyone else is acting perfectly normal. And maybe that's a big part of it. Maybe that in and of itself is a big part of it. That's why the village was acting the way it was. That's why Mion and Reina were acting the way they were. Because they want to, like, try to, like, more than anything, maybe their invitation was more so to get Keiichi to be like, hey, no matter what happens, you fucking act like nothing happened. Alright? That's why Satoko's acting like nothing happened. Because they don't want the actual cops looking into it. They don't want them questioning anything. So, of course, Satoko's gonna carry on like her uncle's still there. And when Keiichi, like, pushes back on it, Mion and Reina are both like, no, this is how things happen, buddy. This is how things went. Get your story straight. And then again, that's why Irie tries to, like, sedate him. He's, like, clearly seeing Keiichi as, like, a liability who's gonna, like, bring some unnecessary attention into the village, who's gonna bring the police into the village. So he's like, okay, bud, we're just gonna fucking knock you out for a bit. We're gonna restrain you, all right, and make sure the cops can't get in contact with you. Now, especially now that I know you did some shit, like, that would make sense. And now, because they've been monitoring him, Keiichi essentially led them right to the body. The coarseness in my brain shot through my whole spine and left me at my waist. The strength of my body all left me through my hips. I crouched down with a splash. Into the sea of mud I dug myself.
おいし
目上の人にはそうでないと大人になってからいろいろと苦労します。
It wasn't only Oishi, but 5 or 6 of them in a row. Men wearing raincoats. I had no inkling that this many people had gotten so close. It was like, once I turned on the lantern, they just appeared there, sliding out of the shadows.
どうぞ森の木立だとでも思って。
Don't mind them?
そう私たちのことは気にされずこんな時間にそんなにも真剣にやっているんですから邪魔なんかしませんよ。心ゆくまで掘っちゃってください。
No, thank you, I said. When I tried to get up and turn around, 2 men blocked that route. They stood on either side of me and lifted me up with amazing strength, then threw me into the sea of mud. As I soaked in the mud bath I dug for myself, I looked up at the silhouettes looking down at me. Oishi squatted, picked up my shovel, and threw it at my feet for me. Bounced loudly off the mud and hit me in the face.
ほら続きをどう続きを。
Couldn't bear the oppressiveness of the silhouettes surrounding me, and slowly, I stuck the shovel into the mud again. I felt like I was digging my own grave. No, see, that's the thing. You already dug your own grave. They're just gonna get, like, the body. They're gonna get the evidence they need. And then if Oishi's the dirty cop that, we're starting to think he is, then clearly he knows where you already dug the first grave. He's probably already scouted out the forest. He's like, oh, look at this conveniently really deep hole over here. If I kept digging, wouldn't matter whether there was a tattoo or not, because that man's corpse would appear eventually. It was all over. Surrounded on all sides and nowhere to go. But I just couldn't figure it out, no matter how much I thought about it. Why were they here? Was it Takano-san? There was only one person who could have made the connection between me and this place. Shit. I knew it. She deserved to die.
手が休んでます。
She kicked me in the back, which took me by surprise, sending me flying into the mud.
ちゃっちゃと掘っちゃってくださいよ。雨の中で待たされる方の身にもなってほしいもん。
くそそんなに雨が嫌なら
She kicked some mud into my face.
口より先に手を動かしてください。口と手を一緒に動かすのは落語家だけ。ねえ。
The men around him didn't react, not knowing quite whether they should laugh. When Oishi glared at them, they started mumbling out pained chuckles. Just who was this guy? I knew the world had changed after that night. But if I went even further back, didn't start when this guy showed up? That was when our peaceful days had been taken from us. I mean, that is kind of how it was in chapter 1. Like, the moment Oishi shows up, things start, going south. That was kind of true in chapter 2 as well. Because your first interaction with Oishi is at the library. And it's shortly after that library. And it's that same night, or that same day, when you have that interaction with Oishi at the library, that Mion goes missing. Not Mion, Shion. That Shion goes missing. Okay, there's something to that. No, there's something to that. Every time Oishi shows up, it's like a harbinger of what's to come, right? Because when he shows up at the school, after Tomitake and Takano die in chapter 1, he purposefully calls on Keiichi and starts telling him all this information. And all the information that Oishi gives Keiichi makes Keiichi very paranoid about his friends and whatnot. Makes him very wary about whether he can actually trust them. And that kind of leads to him separating himself from his friend group and ultimately going down the path that leads him down. And if we assume that Oishi had some connection into kidnapping Shion, then that also was like a key part of what kicked off chapter 2. And then at what point, when did Oishi show up this time around? Right, it was regarding the uncle. He shows up looking for, it was that first day that Satoko didn't show up at school. Or maybe it was like the second day. It was like shortly after Satoko started not showing up at school. That's when Oishi shows up. Interesting. Interesting. Okay. Ever since he showed up in Hinamizawa, things have been odd. Everyone stopped smiling, and the world went crazy. The ground under... What are you doing, Grundy? Thank you. The ground under my feet gradually got harder and heavier. At this point, even I started to think something was odd. I hadn't buried him this deep on that night, had I? My exhaustion peaked, and I sat down on the spot.
いつまで掘ればいいんだ。
最近の若い人は体力がありませんね。おい。
At Oishi's gesture, the men all pulled out their own sinister-looking shovels. As I watched to daze, one of them grabbed my collar, dragged me out of the hole, and threw me to the ground. The rest of the men stepped into the hole I dug and started shoveling themselves. As I stared at them dumbfounded, Oishi sauntered over, squatted down to look at me directly.
前原圭一さん、あなたの趣味は雨の夜のあ
When I didn't respond, Oishi took one of the tin buckets they were using to bail out the muddy water, scooped up some of it, and splashed the whole thing in my face.
今日は大雨ですから、これ以上いくら濡れても全然わかりませんね。
Oishi smiled to himself and scooped up another bucketful of muddy
も
water.
う一回聞きま、あなたの趣味は
そんな趣味のやついるもんか。
Oishi hit me with another bucketful of muddy water. The pebbles in it stung.
あの穴を掘ると、私、花坂じいさんのここ掘れワンワンってのが昔から憧れでしてね。
As he spoke, he ran the bucket through the muddy water again. Splashed it in my face again.
あそこにどんな私に
If you want to know, then dig on your own time. You fucking pig. Yeah, fuck the police. I wasn't saying that out loud, but Oishi mercilessly drenched me in muddy water again anyway. Yeah, if there's one thing I know about Keiichi, he lets his thoughts show on his face very clearly. Shit. If only you had shown up, the world wouldn't have gone wrong. Ever since you showed up, things have been strange. Satoko got abused by her uncle, I ended up killing him, and the world went crazy. He was how it all began. Because of this culprit. I splashed another bucket of mud in my face. My insides were seething with anger. Die. You die too. Keiichi. Come on. Listen, I know you're the type to let your emotions take control of you. But for one, this guy has already, like, put you into submission with just his hands already before, right? Yo, back at the school, he just fucking was squeezing your shoulders and fucking had you damn near paralyzed, right? Had you fucking frozen. You couldn't move. And guess what? He's not alone. Like you said, there's like 5 other guys, all with shovels, too. What are you gonna do? Huh? If I have some strange power to kill someone by cursing them, like with Takano-san, then you're dead. And it wouldn't be Ayashiro-sama's curse. It'll be mine. I'll curse you and kill you.
反抗的な目つきですね。これを機に少しそのあたりをお勉強してしまいましょうか。
Way to go,
今
Keiichi.
は平和な時代ですがね、私があなたくらいだった頃は
おいさ、
One of the digging men in raincoats wiped some sweat off and called Oishi over. Oishi tossed the bucket away, then turned around with an evil grin on his face.
はいはい。
これを見てください。
Acceptance. Or maybe resignation. I wanted to say to them, so you blockheads finally found it. Yeah, that's right. I'm the one who killed him. But you're the police, so it's your own job to figure out who he is, right? Come on, prove to me that he's really Satoko's uncle.
なんですかこりゃ。
多分古い排水管ではないかと。あそこの用水路に繋がっているようです。
ぶっ壊しちゃいましょうか。どうせ使ってない缶でしょ。
The men all exchanged glances, then hesitantly broached another topic.
おいさ、もうかなり手応えが。これより深くってことは。
掘る場所を間違えました。
いえ、初めのうちは明らかに掘り返す感触ですが、このくらいを掘った頃から急に硬くなりまして、多分もともと掘った穴よりも深く掘り進んだのだと思います。
じゃあつまり何ですか。
They moved the
ここ
body.
には穴があって皆さんそうおっしゃるわけで。
What? Yep, they moved the body. I mean, hell, for all we know, it could have been Mion and Reina that did that. And that's why they were trying to fucking coerce Keiichi into helping them. I don't know. But like they said, there was already signs that the hole had been dug up before. What were they talking about?
こりゃ参ったな。ねえ前原さん。
She grabbed my collar and dragged me to the huge hole they dug. The mud inside was like an ocean, and I couldn't see any drain pipe down there. One of the men stirred it with a shovel, letting me hear it clang against something hard. There's no doubt I'd buried him right here. But I hadn't buried him this deep. I didn't dig deep enough to unearth an entire drain pipe. So, then, this man, his corpse, where was it? Proof that I'd been successful on that night, was gone. Gone. Then what on earth was I? Was I actually crazy after all? And just possessed by the delusion that I'd killed someone? That couldn't be. It was the unmistakable truth. It couldn't have been a hallucination. But now, the most important evidence that it hadn't been an illusion was gone. I killed him. I buried him. I had absolute unwavering confidence in that fact. Then, did I fail to kill him? After I left here, had he started breathing again, crawled out, and gone back to Satoko's house? Was that it? I had come here to see whether he had a tattoo or not, and yet the truth I unearthed was far more than that. Yesterday, what was I killed him. I buried him. There was no doubt. But for some reason he lived and crawled back out. And that was impossible too. Oh, I'm so tired of hearing the word impossible over and over. I get it. Dead people don't like to play by the rules here in Hinamizawa. Then I'll kill you as many times as I need to. I'll keep killing you till you never show your face to Satoko again. Oishi and the others were muttering to each other. Eventually their conversation ended and Oishi came towards me. What did he want to say? What did he want to do? I stiffened, tensing up. Then Oishi just ignored me like I wasn't even there and passed right by me. The other men too. They ignored me and shuffled away. Eventually, there was no longer a sign that anyone was around, and I returned to my quiet world of silhouettes. The only one left there was me. Only the sound of the pouring rain filled up the silence. Interesting. Interesting. See, that's the thing. If it weren't for the fact that Oishi himself had already kind of confirmed to us that, or at least one of the detectives or whoever had, when they were investigating Tomitake's death, had already mentioned the fact that Teppei did leave his house at some point, then like you might actually fool me into thinking like maybe it never happened. I feel like it did happen, but now the village is under this massive like cover up, and everyone else, and that's the thing, everyone else in the village has no problem working together to cover it up and present what they say is the truth of the matter, right? They have no problem conspiring together and coming up with this cover story and being like, this is what happened. Oh, Keiichi? Yeah, no, he was at the festival, having fun with everyone. Satsuko never showed up though. No, she was at home getting beat. Yep. Yeah, Teppei never even left his house. Crazy, I know. But like, because we saw from Oishi's perspective that they did monitor the fact that Teppei had left the house. They even mentioned that Satsuko had left the house as well, right? Because they said something about like the daughter returned before Teppei did. And that is what piqued Oishi's curiosity, like, wait a minute. And I think that's why Mion and Reina were like, latching on to Keiichi. Because they could tell that he didn't understand what was happening. He didn't understand the bigger picture, right? And no one was going to explain it to him outright right then and there, because the rest of the village is trying to like, follow the script. So it would make sense to me if Mion and Reina were like trying to like pull him aside, being like, no, Keiichi, you're going to come with us. We're going to sit down. We're going to have a nice talk. Just us three. We're going to go down to the damn construction site. Why? Because there's never anyone there, right? There's never anyone there. That's like their private little area. We're gonna go down to the damn construction site. We're gonna have ourselves a nice little conversation. We're gonna have, Reina said it under the guise of, we're gonna go scavenging for treasure, right? But it's like, we're gonna go down there. We're gonna tell you what's happening, all right? I mean, fuck, for all we know, they were taking him to the damn construction site because that's where they moved the body. Right? So they could show and be like, this is where the body is now. Alright? Here's the truth of the matter. Here's what's happening. Play along if you know what's good for you. But because Keiichi, like, clearly was like, very weirded out by the way they were acting and whatnot, they're like, okay, go to the doctor. Because they know the doctor is in on the whole thing, right? So like, yeah, go see the doctor. Make sure you go see the doctor, all right? Yeah, go see him. Because they're sitting there thinking, oh, the director will take care of everything. If we can't get Keiichi to go along with us, the director will take care of things. God, I can believe it. I can believe it. Let's see what these tips are about, though. The inquiry request. Okonomiya Police Station, Command Center Transmission Recording. June 20th, 8:08 p.m.
こちら沖宮 PS 感度良好です。
車両ナンバー紹介をお願いします。獅子骨歯の4344。
4344。
副将獅子骨歯の4344。少々お時間もらえますがよろしいですか？
お願いします。
Number match. Shishibone H4344. Owner. Address Hinamizawa Village, Shishibone. Vehicle make and model. Theft reports, none. Special mentions, nothing of note.
沖宮 PS より大石社どうぞ。大石社どうぞ。大石社応答。あれ？大石社応答願。大石さんが車両紹介？村人の車ですね。至って平凡な。何者だよ。大石さんが聞いてくるからには。突起事項欄は完全に空欄ですね。S 号指定もなし。 減点もなしだし。
パッシングでもされて腹が立ったんじゃないの？あの人、根に持つとなかなか忘れないタイプなんだよ。
So if it's an actual vehicle, I was thinking it might be related to Teppei's motorcycle, but if it's an actual vehicle, it could be Takano's vehicle then. It very well could be Takano's vehicle. It might have been after... At some point, because there was the point where, like, Takano almost ran Keiichi off the road, right? And, like, they kind of stood there in the middle of the road for a bit talking to each other before Keiichi got in her car. I can imagine that if, like, Oishi was, like, sneaking around being stealthy and shit, he definitely could have snuck up on them without them realizing it, right? If he turns his headlights off and, like, creeps up on them, he'd have to get pretty damn close to get a fucking read on a license plate, though. Like, if it was so dark and dense that they couldn't see his vehicle approaching, then also he wouldn't be able to just immediately make out the license plate either. But I could see that being the case, that that's who it was. I can't imagine what other suspicious vehicle there might be. Record of malice. He said it smelled. He said the food smelled. He said it smelled because I smelled. He said I smelled because I don't take baths. He said I'd take a bath 3 times a day because I was a smelly person. He said I had to stay in the bath for a long time every time. He must be possessed by something too. This is the same thing the man who died said. Why does he know what the man said before? That much is obvious. The same thing that possessed that man is now possessing him. Can't a sudden earthquake make a big hole in front of the house? If it did, he would definitely go and look into it. Then I would just have to push him in. I won't give in until I get the chance. I won't give in. I won't cry. I won't give in. I won't cry. Ah, someone is apologizing again. Interesting. Not quite sure what to think of that one. That one seems to be from Satoko's perspective, from what I can understand. And she said someone is speaking the same way the man who died did. Meaning that Teppei is probably dead, but mayhaps the higher powers in Hinamizawa have sent in some kind of fucking body double so that the police don't ask questions. I don't know. That seems kind of like a stretch, but not quite sure what to make of that one. That's interesting. Let's continue, shall we? The body wasn't there. The police didn't arrest me because of that, but I didn't know whether to feel happy about it. Just like Satoko had said, I'd failed to kill her uncle. The body wasn't there, so I was forced to conclude as much, no matter what strange natural disaster, coincidence, or miracle it might have implied. In order to free Satoko, I became a demon. And this abnormal world was my reward. Yes, metaphorically, I had fallen into the demon world. But if that price had been in exchange for the life of Satoko's uncle, then that would have been fine. Since Satoko's uncle was still alive, still shackling her to him, I needed to become a demon once again. One more time. No, as many times as it took. I would kill that man over and over again until Satoko was liberated. I had already awoken. I looked at the clock to see that it was early in the morning, at just about 5. It was already light outside. Once I'd hardened my resolve to become a demon again, to feel my whole body teeming with an awakened power once more. Time wasn't an issue. No matter what, I'd do it. I got myself up. The exhaustion from the past 2 days was completely swept away, and I didn't even feel sleepy anymore either. I slowly rose and made sure my body was moving like I wanted it to. I could feel blood flowing through each and every one of my fingers. As I got dressed, I let my mind wander, and had a strange thought. These 2 days, while I've said it was for Satoko's sake, the only thing on my mind has been killing. I've said it was for Satoko, but while actually carrying out the act, I had completely forgotten about Satoko, albeit only temporarily. Maybe, initially, it was for Satoko's sake, but now I was just a demon, killing for the sake of killing. and as a result, I'd sunk into a world fit for such a demon. Maybe it was the same for Satoshi. He resolved himself to kill his aunt to save Satoko, became a demon, then disappeared from the sunlit Hinamizawa, vanishing into the demon world. Which meant that after all was said and done, I'd met the same fate as him. I tried to avoid making the same mistakes, but it happened anyway. Which meant that maybe Satoshi was here. Satoshi had come to this world a year before me, so he would be here somewhere. Then, surprised, I stopped walking. There was the second set of footsteps I'd grown so used to hearing.
お前ひょっとしてサトシなのか
The empty, lifeless air wouldn't give me an answer. But I felt a strange kind of relief that there was someone there, that Satoshi had stuck with me the whole time. Let's go, Satoshi. Once more. This time, we will set Satoko free for sure. I quietly slipped out of the house so my parents wouldn't notice. If they caught me now when I'd been out way too late for 2 days in a row now, they'd really give me an angry talking to. I have time to allow for that to happen. Today, I would put an end to it. What the fuck's the plan today? At least last time you had like a half-baked plan. What, are you just gonna stroll up to the house now? Start fucking putting the screws to him then? If the dead body disappeared, then I didn't have to bury it. I could just burn it to ashes. And then take them with me so I could kill him again every time he resurrected. I'd do it again. I'd kill him again. And this time I'd set her free. Outside, the morning light was so beautiful as to stagger belief. It seems like you, because of your interaction with Oishi and whatnot, you kind of forgot about your previous interactions with Mion and Reina and Coach. Like, you don't think that... You think you're just gonna be able to walk free around Hinamizawa with no issues? I went to the storage room to find weapons with which I could kill him for sure. Blunt or not, it didn't matter to me. Right now, I didn't need to care whether someone saw or if the police came. This world had gone crazy after all. A world where I'd shown up at the festival and had fun, even though I wasn't there. Even if the police arrested me, I'd probably end up going right back home as if nothing had happened. Both me and that other, Keiichi Maibara. Even without me, he'd fill in. I could vanish from Hinamizawa without anyone noticing. So basically, I didn't care if I was mistakenly killed. Even if I died, Keiichi Maibara would remain. After all, this isn't the world I belong in. If I was going to be killed mistakenly for Satoko's sake, then that was just part of my duty as her Nini. As those desperate thoughts became serious, the morning air felt more refreshing to me, strangely enough.
これは怖いな。こいつにするか
It was a hatchet meant for chopping thick firewood. Its hefty steel blade was sinister, almost as though it was a tool meant for killing people. I couldn't exactly take it out in public like that, so I wrapped it up a little in some old newspaper and tossed it into the basket of my bike.
連日悪い用事に使ってばかりで悪いな今日も頼むぜ俺の足
I apologized to my bike for some reason. For the past 3 days, I've only used it for dangerous things. Been riding this bike ever since I lived in my old town. I could walk most places I wanted to go, so I hadn't used it all that much. My mom had bought it for me when I entered cram school, thinking it would be a convenient way to get to the station since it was far away. So I'd always used it to get back and forth from cram school. I'd only ever put textbooks and class materials in the front basket, too. Never tried to put a hatchet that I'd used to kill someone in here. When I came to Hinamizawa, life finally felt fun. I met the best friends ever and had some of the greatest times ever. Those times might have been shattered now, but it was my greatest wish that I could get them back, even if I had to risk my life to do it. That's how fun those times had been. I killed someone, and now I was at it again, needing to kill someone. Murder was a crime. I didn't believe that people should ever think murder was okay, but still, the times I'd had were enjoyable enough for me to commit such a crime. My friends were irreplaceable, and the time spent with them a treasure. Hanging out, laughing, sometimes tricking each other, but always in a friendly way. I didn't fear committing any crime, as long as it was for the sake of taking back those times that gave my heart so much pleasure. Yes, This was a value I decided to uphold. It wasn't something I learned from a school teacher. It was a noble path that I chose for myself. I thought back to when I'd first come to Hinamizawa. About how on the very first day, Satoko had welcomed me via a blackboard eraser with a rock in it. That welcome really surprised the heck out of me. She would laugh, get angry, cry. She was never boring. She was obviously the most childlike one among us, but she was actually lively, full of vim and vigor, and good at meddling in other people's business. That went for Mio and Reina and Rika-chan too. Wasn't Satoko the one at the center of everyone's laughing and banter? Satoko tried to look cool. Then Mio would make fun of her endlessly. Then Satoko would cry, which put Reina in a state of ecstasy. Rika-chan would be greatly delighted. And I happened to get mixed up in it. We would always fool around like that. It was lonely when someone wasn't around, but if I had to name one for whom it was the worst, it would have been Satoko. Her smile was everyone's smile. Ever since she stopped smiling, so did the rest of us. And for the rest of us, not smiling was the same as dying. It was just like when I was silently going to cram school every day just to maintain my unchanging test scores. So basically, we were nothing when she wasn't smiling. She was full of hot air, but she was our princess, cute and unhateable. In that case, I was her knight, searching for the dragon's castle in order to win her smile back.
ナイトなら武器は剣だろ。ツーハンデッドのかっこいいやつ。錆びた肉厚のナタで挑むナイトは、多分古今東西俺一人だな。
Then I saw an old person in the ridge of a field waving to me.
おや、ケイチ君、朝のサイクリングかいね。
おはようございます。
I reflexively waved back in a refreshing way. Should I really have been feeling so happy, waving like that? Satoko's house would be right past this road going beyond the rice paddies. The cicadas had woken up too. Next thing I knew, I was the audience to their daily chorus. I gave myself a hit or two on the head and drove away my merry morning mood. I took a deep breath, then tilted my head back, quelling my pointless excitement. The body wasn't there. Its absence either meant my killing him had been an illusion, or that I had killed him and he'd risen from the dead. If I was at the festival, then maybe I should have considered it an illusion. Coach probably thought that way, which is why he treated me like a lunatic. But it being an illusion was just impossible. I killed him without a doubt. Without a doubt. If that had been an illusion, then that would make all of this Hinamizawa was in right now an illusion. If that was the case, then here's how it would end up. I was actually in a vegetative state due to a traffic accident, and I was currently dreaming in a hospital bed about how great it would be to spend time with friends in rice paddies like these. That was a terrifying thought, though. If this wasn't an illusion, then the only possible answer was that he'd resurrected. It would make him a literal monster. But if he was such a monster, then I was no less than a monster myself. I didn't hesitate to kill someone, and I could even wield curses. Takano-san died probably because I'd cursed her. Or maybe that was a little much. If Coach and Oishi died too, like I'd cursed them to yesterday, then I'd believe it. I set my bicycle aside and went to take a look. His motorbike wasn't there. Of course it wasn't. I sent it down to hell that night, throwing it into Onagahuchi Swamp. Or maybe, just like how the corpse wasn't here, maybe the motorbike didn't get thrown into the swamp either. The fact his bike wasn't here might have been because he had gone to town and hadn't come back, not necessarily because I'd thrown it into the swamp. If her uncle wasn't around, then that was convenient on its own. I would just show myself in, then wait for him to return, sharpening my hatchet. If he was there. Forgotten sensations came back to my gut. A feeling of tension rose within me. The sensation was like poison, dulling my actions, but it could also be the trigger to allow me to awaken to my superhuman otherworldly self. I held the hatchet, still wrapped in newspaper. Its weight in my hands was profound, sinister, and reliable. I hadn't put on my watch, so I didn't know what time it was, but goddammit. It was probably still a little before 7. Satoko would probably be awake preparing breakfast and her lunch. But her uncle would probably still be lazing around in bed. A guy like him probably would have stayed up late drinking and probably always slept until noon. I considered ringing the doorbell and having Satoko open the door for me, but if her uncle woke up at the sound, then I'd waste my chance of him still being asleep. If Satoko saw me sneaking inside without ringing the doorbell, she'd be surprised. If I ran into her, what would I say? I've come to kill your uncle for you, so stay quiet? No, I couldn't do that. That'd be like making Satoko responsible for his death. Be quiet and go wait outside. Maybe that would do it. How would Satoko react to that? She'd probably try and get me to give up on killing him. I'd have to lie somehow to get her to go outside. Satoko didn't need to know that a murder was going to occur in this house. I couldn't quite think of a good lie to tell her, but I couldn't do much just standing around like this. I made up my mind and grabbed the doorknob. Okay. Ballsy. We're just going in, huh? Then slowly turned it and pulled. It wasn't locked. The gap between the door and the wall steadily grew larger. The chain wasn't even on. The oppressive smell of life in Satoko's house hit me. At the entrance, there were a few pairs of shoes and sandals. Couldn't tell whether he was here or not just by looking at them. I could hear a television on somewhere. The television was in the messy dining room. Good God, yeah, that's for sure. There was food scattered about the table, giving an impression decidedly different from a happy family's mealtime. Meals were for eating food while thanking the person for making it, meaning whatever occurred in this dining room wasn't a meal. Nobody in sight. No sign of anyone either. But with the television on, he must have been close. Could he have anticipated my coming and be hiding, waiting for me? The tension I felt was so thick, so tight that I thought it would choke me. The newspaper, wrapping the hatchet's thick blade, didn't hamper its power at all. I tightened my grip on it, then very carefully took a look around. Where had those peaceful feelings from before I arrived here gone? Even the sound of sweat bubbling up on my brow got on my nerves. And then, I looked at the table and realized something. This wasn't breakfast. The grains of boiled rice were all hard and dried up. Then, was it last night's dinner? I left the dining room, keeping vigilant, went down the hallway and found the stairs to the second floor. When that man was playing with his friends, he looked out of a second-story window. It was highly possible that room was his own, that he slept there. He tiptoed up to the edges of the stairs, quietly climbing without making a sound. I couldn't hear any kind of snoring. I didn't hear anything up there. Went through a few rooms, slowly and quietly opening the paper doors, checking inside. I still couldn't find anyone around. To search more efficiently, I got down on the floor and pressed my ear right up to it. I could hear the television in the dining room and a low hum, perhaps of boiling water. It was then I started to harbor some feelings of suspicion. This house wasn't right. It seemed like people had been here since the TV was on, but it wasn't normal for nobody to be around this early in the morning. I silently descended the stairs and went back to the dining room. I looked at the food scattered about, completely dried up rice, an overturned bowl of miso soup, the package for a side dish bought at the supermarket. I could tell Satoko had definitely been the one who made this. The food was far from Mion's perfection or Reina's gentleness, but it was sincere. Judging by how she cooked for me at my house and from the type and amount of side dishes, I deduced the meal was from last night. The number stamped onto the food package read 830620. June 20th, 1983. That was yesterday. And there was food for two, which meant that this was last night's dinner and Satoko's uncle would have been here then. Stop it, Keiichi. Don't even think about saying the word impossible again. Anyway, her uncle was here last night. That much was the truth. He had found fault with Satoko's food, thrown the bowl of miso soup, and flung the rest everywhere. Hidden deep within my feelings of calm and composure was lit a flame of anger and a curse. Should I have ever shown this man any mercy? Bump. I heard the sound again. The one from before. Like a water boiler. What was it coming from? The first floor? But where? The bathroom, maybe? I hear the noise coming from the other side of the frosted glass at the far end of the changing room. That'd have been the sound of the water boiler for the bath. Steam was enshrouding the glass door, and the heat from it was leaking into the changing room where I was standing, too. My misgivings deepened. People didn't normally take a bath this early in the morning. If one did, it would mean that in this house, time had been stopped ever since some moment last night. Was it being reheated? The water boiler in the bathroom had been active this whole time. I checked in a clothing basket and saw Satoko's familiar uniform stuffed in it. The uniform had stains and dried rice stuck to it. Certainly not something she could wear today. It was probably from the miso soup at the dinner table yesterday. I looked hard at the frosted glass, but I couldn't see anything through all the steam. And then, an electric surge ran through my mind, and a terrible premonition came over me. Could she? She couldn't possibly have been there since last night. That would be impossible. But no. In Hinamizawa right now, nothing was impossible. I gulped audibly and then quietly pulled aside the glass door. Hot steaming air burst out of the slight opening. The fan wasn't on in the changing room, so it went completely white with the steam. Just as the hot vapor poured into the changing room, cooler air also flowed into the room with the bath. And I just heard, due to being hit by that air, a very weak moan. That was all I needed to know who it was. No answer. Satoko's in the bathtub, surrounded by a thick layer of rising steam. The top half of her body was leaning over the edge of the tub, and she was passed out. The water boiler kept on making a whistling noise as if angered. I could see the gas flame through a small window. It was roaring at a full force, completely blue. Satoko's entire body was boiled red and flaccid as though her bones had melted away. Jesus fuck. She was almost like a doll as she laid there unconscious. I wasn't sure how many seconds passed as I stared in complete bafflement. Came back to my senses and promptly shut off the boiler. Then I dragged Satoko's small body out of the bathtub. The water in it was as hot as the water in public baths. Was she in this boiling water for the entire night? She'll die. She'll die. Satoko's body was lighter than I'd expected as I laid her on the floor and wrapped her in a towel. I went back into the bathroom, opened up the vent, creating a path for a cool breeze to come through. Upon the breeze hitting her, Satoko moaned again. Satoko recognized me and muttered a response, but couldn't really tell what she was saying. Her eyes were muddy and unfocused. I could tell she wasn't completely conscious. Upon closer inspection, her limbs and waist were twitching slightly. This was way worse than normal overheating. This was dangerous. Didn't they call this heat stroke? Think, what would the teacher do? The girl passed out in the middle of summer during a marathon gym class or something. Turned the water faucet in the kitchen all the way on and soaked a towel in it. I then took the cold towel and pressed it to Satoko's forehead. Satoko reacted harshly to the coldness, let out a muffled voice. For burns, right, you'd soak the burned spot under running water. Then, could I run cold water in the shower and cool her off like that? I don't remember my first date all that well. I'm pretty sure that's not what you do to someone going through heat stroke. I'm pretty sure dousing them in cold or like giving them cold water right away can actually send their body into shock from what I remember. Like if you see someone that's like struggling from like heat exhaustion or heat stroke, like you don't hit them with the cold water. You want to give them like warm or room temperature water to like rehydrate them, or like room temperature water to help bring their body temperature down without sending their body into shock. If you just hit them with the ice cold water straight out the gate, you're gonna do more damage than good, if I'm remembering correctly. So, okay, there we go. Now, if it was that sudden, it wouldn't be good for her heart and she'd go into shock. I think I read that once before. Yeah, same. Yeah, this was about as much nursing as I could possibly give her. Anything more than this would be too much for the likes of an amateur. What was Satoko reciting under her breath? I brought my ear to her mouth to better make out the mysterious spell-like words she kept saying. And at that moment, I understood what they were for. People tell little kids in the bath to count to 100 a lot, right? Satoko was counting like that. But 5,039? I doubted my ears. I doubted her common sense. 10,000? 10,000 would be what, roughly? 10,000 would be roughly 3 hours, right? No? Yes? I was trying to think if you count 10,000 seconds. Because I know a full day has 86,400 seconds. So it's like a little less than an eighth of a day, which would be 3 hours. Right? If there's 60 minutes in an hour, 60 seconds in a minute, that makes 3,600 in 1 hour. So yeah, under 3 hours. But something tells me she's been in there longer than 3 hours. Not that she should have been in there for 3 hours in the first place, of course, but 10,000.
ふざけ1万なんて数えられるバカがどこにいるんだよ。数えられるわけねえだろ。その前にユダって死んじまうに決まっどうしてこんなこと。バカ。
Last night, her uncle flew into a rage at the dinner she'd made, saying it stunk and was inedible. Satoko didn't understand what on earth he meant. It wasn't much different than what she usually made for him. Maybe he hated the smell of the pickled vegetables she brought in particular. Her uncle then decided the stink was originating from Satoko and shouted at her that she never ever took baths. Then he put Satoko in the boiling water and told her not to come out until she counted 2. My brother, what the fuck is that for? The motherfucker ain't even in the house right now. Who are you yelling at? Like, believe me, I feel the anger and frustration, I do. That just seems silly. I snapped and exploded. Raising the newspaper-wrapped hatchet, I stampeded through the house. I searched for anything, traces, signs, smells, vibrations, heartbeats. With a war cry, I raced up the stairs with such force I could have stomped a hole through them. Then I found the futon in the room I thought to be your uncle's. Well aware he wasn't sleeping in it, I bashed it with the hatchet. Did he run to the closet? Yeah, okay, he's entirely fucking lost it. Gotcha. I'll bust the entire closet down, door and all. If he's not there, maybe there's a secret door. Any switches or levers in the walls here? I smashed into wall after wall with the hatchet, crushing them. Dust rose into the air and broken pieces scattered about the floor. Yeah, no, he's just fucking lost it. He has just fucking lost it. Gotcha. I smashed all the glass windows too for good measure. Yeah, because that... There's definitely logic behind that. After I destroyed everything beyond recognition in her uncle's room, my reason finally kicked in and suppressed my emotions. Oh, reason? I didn't realize you had any of that, bud. Anyway, her uncle isn't in the house right now. Yeah, no shit. I have to leave, killing him until later. Right now, I had to do something about Satoko. Went back to the changing room. Satoko was still lying limp on the floor. There's nothing more an amateur like me could do for her. I needed to take her to the clinic. Coach had treated me like a lunatic yesterday and tried to lock me up in a mental hospital. Never wanted to see his damn face again. But I still needed to go to the infirmary one more time. Needed to have a doctor look at Satoko. Thought about putting her in the dirty uniform lying in the laundry basket, but I had no experience dressing someone, so it would be pretty difficult. Shit, I don't have time to be wasting here. I eventually gave up on clothing her and decided to carry her in her bath towel. The clinic was close to Satoko's house. It would be way faster to carry her there than to call 119 to get an ambulance. I threw the biggest towel I could find over her and prompted her to stand.
俺が診療所までおぶ。
ありがとうですわ。
Her words sounded clearer than before. She was starting to come back. I cried tears of relief just knowing she'd improved even a little bit. Satoko turned over so she was lying on her face, then put up a weak struggle to get up on a knee. I smoothly swept her up and put her on my back. The towel I put on her seemed like it was about to fall off.
すぐ着くから。しばらくの間だけ我慢してろ。
It hurt one bit to carry Satoko. She was light. Too light. The lightness actually made me uneasy. Outside it had gotten hotter, as though eager to attack Satoko. Fucking cicadas. I'd have to choose this morning to get so hot out. Didn't have time to swear at them. The clinic was this way. Hoisting Satoko on my back, I broke into a trot. Okay. Like, I get what that scene's kind of trying to illustrate. The fact that Keiichi just totally fucking snapped at seeing Satoko like that. But God, it just felt so silly. Satoko's clearly in a lot of fucking, is very unwell. She's very unwell. She's lying on the floor of the fucking changing room, barely unable to even speak, right? And this man's like, I gotta take a few minutes to go bust up this dude's room. Alright, now I'm good. Alright, back to actually helping Satoko again. Like, I don't know, that just felt kind of silly to me. That's kind of goofy. The hilly road to the clinic, with which I had never had difficulties before, was now torturous. Big beads of sweat formed on my brow, and at some point my breath had grown faint. The hatch at my belt was heavy and made it hard to walk. I considered leaving it, but I couldn't let it go, at least not while Satoko's uncle was still breathing. The signboard for the Irie clinic came into sight. I quickly noticed something was odd, so I stopped. Several red revolving lights were flashing at the clinic. 3 police cars were parked in the parking lot with their lights on. There didn't need to be much else to inform me something had happened. I didn't want to see Coach, so I'd planned to leave Satoko in the clinic waiting room and give the receptionist a message. But with that police officer Oishi here, I couldn't go inside so carelessly.
なんですの?
Oh, wow, that's a revealing sprite. I might have to censor that just in case.
パトカーがいっぱいいますですわよ。
I gently put Satoko down in the shade of the thicket.
わからない。様子を見てくるから、しばらくここにいろ。
レディーをバスタオル1枚でこんなとこに置いてくなんて。
それだけ悪態がつけりゃ大丈夫だ。
I mean, wearing is definitely a choice of words. You're not really wearing it, as I can tell from the sprite. It's just kind of like there. I'll be right back, I added, getting to my feet. Cautious of my surroundings, I hid myself behind a car and got closer to the officers grouped at the clinic's entrance. I overheard an officer wearing a necktie, probably their leader, and a white-robed doctor having a discussion about something. The doctor didn't seem to be Coach. He was one of those who Coach told to make the tea yesterday.
じゃあつまり最初に見つけたのは朝。それでどんな感じだった？
事務室の所長席のソファーに座って居眠りをしているように見えました。
で、机の上に水差しと空き瓶になった睡眠薬があったんで、それで
高熱と瞳孔の拡大に重度の意識睡眠薬中毒の典型的な重症例だ。
警察も救急も呼ぶ。
ここは病院で私は医師ですよ。生命が危険な状態にあるなら。
ああ、まあいいからいいから。それで
呼吸が不正常だったので人工呼吸を施しました。合わせて呼吸刺激薬を投与。効果が出なかったので人工呼吸器の準備をし。
ああ、はいはい。それでつまりいろいろ頑張ったけど結局ダメだったと。そういうわけですよね。通報は死んでから直ちに。
はい、救うことができずとても残念です。
Just then, a radio in one of the police cars started to buzz, producing a broken mechanical voice.
こちら本部、小宮山さん、聞こえますか？
もしもし、小宮山です。ああ、お疲れ様です。睡眠薬での自殺みたいですね。遺書の類はなし。
Suicide? What the heck were they talking about? Someone had committed suicide at the clinic. But who? Oh, gee, I wonder. I wish Takano-san dead, and she died the next day. And yesterday I wish Coach was dead. Then, could he have...
普段から睡眠薬を常用していたとかは
あまり知りません。
日頃疲れたとか死にたいとかそんなこと言ってました。
入江先生は普段からああいう性格でしたから、とてもそんな風には。
So, I was right. Irie-sensei. They were talking about Coach. Coach killed himself. Why would he do that? There couldn't have been any reason he wanted to die. Yeah, because you knew the guy so well, didn't you, Keiichi? The only reason that came to mind was that I wanted him dead. Because the world revolves around you, bud. This world was insane. If I wanted someone dead, they die. That was the kind of world this was. Then, what about Oishi? What happened to him? If people really died because I wanted them to, then something should have happened to him, too. I was trying to think. If people died because Keiichi wants them to, that wouldn't make any sense for Tomitaki and Takano. I mean, Takano in this chapter, sure, but the previous chapters, not really. Yeah, I'm not really seeing anything to build off of there.
そちらに応援が向く課長からそちらは応援に任せて大石社の捜索に戻るとのことです。
了解しました。じゃあすいません。こっちに今応援が来てるそうですから、現場はこのままにしておいてください。おい、行くぞ。
The officers nodded and split up into patrol cars. Did they just say, searching for Oishi's car? Searching for his car. That meant he had gone missing? Takano-san, Coach, and Oishi. When I wished for it, the very next day, they disappeared. No matter how angry you were when you said you wished someone was dead, it didn't normally happen. Everyone knew just wishing for it wouldn't make them dead, and that's why people could utter such curses so lightly. But the curses I uttered were being granted. At the time, I hadn't been walking, and yet... Tap. I heard a footstep. And it wasn't only one this time. Tap, tap. They came from behind. And they stood right behind me, reaching a hand for my shoulder.
一体何事なんですの？
佐藤脅かすなよ。
驚いたのはこっちでしてよ。
Yeah, no shit. Imagine being a young girl, totally fucking nude, suffering from potentially heat stroke, but definitely heat exhaustion, laying out in the fucking... laying out wide in the open, like...
いきなり大声を出さないでくださいまし。
It was Satoko. Her eyes were still unstable, unfocused, but she seemed to be able to at least walk on her own now. She looked far better now compared to her earlier exhausted state.
具合はもう大丈夫なのか？
まだいつまでもこんな格好で表にいられませんもの。
Yeah, no shit. She gave a smile, a show of courage, but her legs were still shaky.
それよりこれは一体今警察が話して。
監督が自殺したらしい。
え？
Satoko was at a loss for words. Her face grew paler and paler, and I could tell she was doubting her own ears.
本当ですの？何から聞きまじ。
確かに入江先生が睡眠薬で自殺したって。
Satoko went down on her knees and broke out in tears.
嘘。監督が自殺なんて、そんなの絶対に。
As I watched Satoko cry and clawing at the grass, I felt myself trapped by guilt and remorse. I got so angry that Coach was treating me like a madman yesterday, that he betrayed me, that I thought he'd be better off dead. But even Coach, who, to me, deserved to die, still must have had people who loved and respected him, like Satoko here. In my selfish, egotistical anger, I wished for his death, and it was granted. And now Satoko was crying hysterically as a result. The guilt tore at my heart. I worked myself up to murder for Satoko's sake. I decided I wanted Satoko to be happy. But was that really all it took? Murder meant taking someone's life. It meant making everyone attached to that person sad. In Satoko's uncle's case, of course, nobody would be sad. So I didn't feel a sense of guilt at all. But Coach's death was different. I had wanted to make Satoko happy, and that had resulted in me inflicting a deep sadness upon her, hadn't it? But Coach killed himself. It wasn't my... Satoko still hadn't stopped crying, but she seemed to be a little calmer now. Wiping her tears, she stood up.
すまない。
The only thing I could think of to say to her was an apology.
どうして？
俺、昨日監督とお前なんか呪ったんだ。呪ったから本当に死んじゃって。
Now man's talking like, yeah, no, it was me. I wished for it, so it happened, you know? It's crazy. It's all my fault. I can't believe I did that. I'm just like, goddamn, dude. You really have lost it. Satoko looked at me dubiously for a few moments. Eventually her expression softened as she interpreted my words in her own way.
圭一さんのせいでは監督も自分の命を捨てるに値する都合があって悩んだ末に選んだんですもの。誰のせいでもありませんわ。
Yeah, and see that she's probably spot on about that. If there was something he felt he had to give his life for. I'm not entirely sure what he was hiding, what he was trying to cover up, but yeah, whatever was happening, he felt it's better off he wasn't around for it. She smiled a little, trying to comfort me.
いつまでもこのままでいた服が欲しい。
Yeah, I want you to have some clothes too. I don't like having this sprite on my
いい
screen.
のかよ。診療所に行って見てもらった方が。
服を着てから見てもらっても別に死にはしませんわ。
Satsuko readjusted her bath towel and started back along the path. Her stride was wobbly. It looked like she'd recovered as much as she let on. At first, Satsuko tried to go back home, but it was the time of the morning when people were going to school and to work, so after seeing people walking around, she thought better of it. She must have been pretty embarrassed wearing only the towel.
理科のうちに行きます。私の服どうしたんですの、圭一さん。
Satsuko noticed how I was hanging my head and spoke to me.
監督はああ見えても大人ですのよ。圭一さんと喧嘩したくらいで自殺するような人ではありませんわ。
True. Well, that's the thing. I could 100% see it being set up to look like a suicide, right? After he failed to subdue Keiichi, whoever like the big higher ups in charge of this whole operation are, like, they're like, oh yeah, we know that Irie definitely works with sedatives, right? So it's be something well within his grasp that he could get a hold of. So it's like, we set it up to look like that. People aren't really going to question it.
自分を責めるのをおやしなさいませ。
At first I thought it was a coincidence, but with 3 people now, I couldn't discard the possibility. There's no such thing as impossible in this world.
この数日。
何がですの。
Satsuko seemed to be having trouble breathing, but she still tried to listen to what I had to
一
say.
昨日の綿流しのお祭り。そして。
らしいですわね。あの時は取り乱して申し訳ありませんでしたわね。
Satsuko remembered how she blew up at me in the classroom yesterday and bowed to me a little.
実は俺、祭りに行っていないって言ったら、信じるか？
Satsuko looked at me confused. She couldn't help it, of course.
信じられるわけあります。何を今さら。
信じられないだろ。信じられないのは、だって、俺は祭りに行っていないのに、俺が祭りに現れて、こんなの信じられるわけないだろ。
それ、本気ですの？
ああ、綿流しの夜から、いつの間にか、変な足音が、ペタペタとついてくるようになって。
The blood drained from Satoko's expression. Let me guess. This is something that Satoshi was saying shortly after the last...
足音が。
そうなんだ。最初は気のせいだと思って、多分今もSatokoの足音と混じって、よく聞き分けられないけれど。
Satoko took a long and hard look at me. Maybe she was doubting my sanity. Coach did the same thing. I mean, why wouldn't he after telling him this? The more I thought about it, the more I was unable to endure the feeling that my hatred for Coach had been meaningless. Honestly, that would make sense, though. Like, Coach was so able to quickly come to a conclusion, right, about what Keiichi's case might have been, because he saw the same thing happen with Satoshi. I would just say it could have potentially gone that way. Satoshi also unable to, like, actually deal with the guilt of taking a life, ended up spilling his guts to Coach because he seemed like a friendly guy who was really helpful, really seemed like he wanted to look out for the kids, right?
綿流しの日、俺は祭りに行かず、ずっとだぞ。眠ったり、だから寝ぼけ気分でフラフラと、記憶になく祭り。
それはおかしいです。なら、どうやってお祭り。
だから、俺は祭りには行ってないんだよ。
Okay, chill the fuck out. No. I Can't let myself get emotional. Well, you've already failed at that one, bud. Several times over. If I get agitated now, that'd be like proving that there's something wrong with my head.
ごめん、みんなが信じてくれないんで。
圭一さんがそう言うなら、それで。
あの夜、高野さんにそれで、俺は、お前なんか
高野さんって、どことその気持ち、わからなくもありません。
高野さんが死んだの、昨日の話だ。どこかで焼け死んだらしい。
それ、死んだんです。
俺が、死ねと、それから、警察、知ってるか？ムカつく、太った、刑事みたいなやつ。
Satoko nodded a little.
さっき、警察が話してるのを実は昨日、あいつ。
それ、
嘘じゃない。俺だって信じたくないけど、本当の話なんだ。高野さんも、監督も、大石も、俺が死ねと念じたら、本当に死んでしまったんだ。
For a little while, Satoko's at a loss. Long silence ensued.
それは怖い話。圭一さんにせめて嫌われないように気をつけませんと。
それだけじゃない。もっとおかしいこともあるんだ。
Keiichi, now's not the time to bring it up. Now's not the time to bring it up. This girl is still very clearly unwell. She's still struggling to like, get herself back to a sense of normalcy. She's still fucking nude with nothing but a towel draped on her front half. Like, now is not the time to bring up the uncle. Now is not the time to bring up the uncle.
それはお前。
おじさまの話はやめてくださいましな。
Please drop it, Keiichi.
昨日お前の家に。
あの人の話はやめてくださいます。
Keiichi.
嫌なんですの。
ありえないんだ。あいつが。
やめてって言ってますのよ。
Keiichi. Jesus fucking Christ. Are you really that desperate to have someone to trauma dump to? She's sitting here being like, stop. Don't talk, don't bring this up. Don't touch on this subject matter. Stop it. And he's like, but yesterday, I have to tell you everything. I have to tell you.
あの男が綿流しの夜だって。いや、あの男の
ことはもう嫌なんです
の。俺がこの手で。
Even the cicada stopped crying. Jesus, you suck, Keiichi. She's like, no, shut up. And he starts screaming at her, I killed him! I fucking killed him! God, this kid fucking sucks. Her face was streaked with tears, and it stiffened even more as she looked at me in disbelief. But still, he went back. And last night he found fault with the dinner you made him, yelled all sorts of things at you, and basically boiled you in the bathtub. That couldn't possibly have happened.
だから俺はあの男を出したが、こんなことがありえ。確かに殺したのに。そして何事もこんなことがあっていいはずないだろう。
Satoko's entire body stiffened. She was shrinking away, like there was someone in front of her about to hurt her. Yeah, when someone just is like shouting at you that you killed someone, I'd probably back up too. Especially if you're under the belief that that person is not dead, right? Because I don't know what the truth is. I don't know if like there's some kind of body double going on. I don't know if like Keiichi killed the wrong guy or something. I don't know. But Satoko very clearly dealt with something last night. As we've realized with her being practically cooked alive in the fucking bathtub this morning. Right? She definitely dealt with someone last night. So the fact that he's sitting here being like, but he's dead. I killed him. He's dead. I'm a murderer. Like, yeah, no, I'd be fucking backing away too.
お前も俺のこと頭が変になったって無理もないさ。俺だって。
圭一さんはきっと偶然呪った人が死んで監督の自殺にショックを受けて、今日はもう学校を休んで、私はもう平気ですから、どうか ご自分の体を大事になさいまし。
Satoko spoke like she understood me, but she also told me to go home. I could see the revulsion in her face. I knew that she didn't want to be around me anymore.
サトコちゃんと診療所まで。サトコだって途中で倒れたら大変だ。
私はもう男の人にいつまでもこんな姿を晒していたくない。
She wobbled up the shrine steps, looking like she was about to fall. I immediately ran up to her and helped her stay on her feet. But then Satoko probably jumped away from me. That outright rejection hurt a lot. Once she got to the top of the stairs, her breathing was ragged. She wasn't even looking at me. At this point, I was being ignored. Well, it was more like she didn't want to have anything to do with me. It really was a feeling of rejection. And that hurt my heart more than any blade could have. This was the path I chose for her sake. To be treated like this at the end of it all was just so saddening. Don't be naive, Keiichi Maibara. You never wanted to be repaid in the first place. You didn't do it so that Satoko would thank you. You did it so that Satoko would be happy. And that was what led to this ending. Rika-chan's house was a disaster prevention storehouse used by the town council. If you went past it a little further through the shrine grounds, you'd probably reach the back of the assembly hall. Satoko was heading there, walking quickly, the gravel under her feet crunching as she went. Did she want to get there as soon as possible? Or did she want to run away? I couldn't tell. Probably both. She wanted to get the fuck away from you as soon as possible. And then, I heard the vigorous sounds of wings flapping. I turned around and saw a crow. I hadn't seen many crows since coming to Hinamizawa. Saw them a lot in my old town, though. On garbage day, they'd flock to trash collection points, peck through the bags with their beaks, drag out the contents, and have a feast. As I was remembering that, I saw a few crows flocking around the shrine's donation box. Oh. And I thought how terrible it was for someone to leave a garbage bag in a place like that. No, there's... The cicadas. Quieted. Breathing. Stopped. Thoughts ceased. Even time came to a halt. I ran over to where the crows were flocking. I ran there in order to drive a horrible idea out of my mind. I definitely hadn't wanted this. There's no way I would ever wish for this even by mistake. This was not. Oh, fuck. Man, why the fuck they murk Rika? What did Rika do? Ayo, what the fuck? When they noticed my vicious approach, the crows all flapped upwards, fleeing into the sky. Also, why has the last hour been like young naked girls? Can we stop that, please? When the crows' big black bodies flew away, they exposed the garbage bag. What had I seen there? The scream had escaped from my throat before I understood what I was looking at. What was this? Satoko came over as well, realizing something had happened. Oh god, no. No, Satoko, please. You already had a hard enough time finding out that Irie was dead. You don't want to look at this one. You don't want to look at this one. And she looked over my shoulder. Then she screamed as well. This wasn't... The garbage bag was crimson, dyed in fresh blood. Enough of this stupid roundabout way of saying it. That's right. Yes. Yes. It was Rika-chan. Our friend. Satoko's best friend. What is this? What the fuck is this sound effect supposed to be? What the fuck is this? Nah, I'm not gonna lie, this sound effect kind of like killed all the tension for me. I'm just sitting here, what the fuck am I even listening to? It's like, I can tell part of it's like a heartbeat, like his heart's thumping, and I get that. But yeah, there's like the high pitch like sting. It's almost like a squeaky door being opened, which doesn't make sense. I'm not gonna lie, this kind of sucks. Always easygoing. Clever as a cat. So cute you couldn't hate her. Our friend, Rika-chan. She was... Rika-chan was stark naked. She was face up, limbs sprawled. Her eyes were like glass, just staring up into the sky. And...
Rika! Rika!
Satoko broke down crying on the spot. And yet, she still couldn't approach her friend's remains. I mean, I can't be too surprised. The crows had gotten through the garbage bag and dragged... Well, they dragged out an apple peel and spread it all over. No. Crows. They couldn't do this. Ugh. On the spot, I started vomiting. The sour taste became a bitter one as I threw up over and over again. Rika-chan. Her stomach was cut wide open. Vertically. Completely open. Vertically. Oh. God, I really need this audio to stop. I want to think for a moment. Can I just... Okay, is this technically music? Okay. I just need that to stop for a moment. Cause that is so fucking annoying when I'm sitting here just trying to think. She was cut wide open vertically. I'm just trying to think, why would she be targeted? Why would she be targeted? Unless it goes back to, like, what they're trying to insinuate with chapter 2. Right? Where, like, everything has to happen in twos. Right? If, Tomitaki dies and then Takano goes missing, then... Well, no, because that one doesn't really work. Because both the mayor went missing, and then Rika went missing, and then Shion went missing. So I don't think that quite works as well here either. Like, we do know that Rika is, like, the last of the Fura days, right? And she kind of is, like, the last, like, representative of that family. And we know from chapter 2 that she holds some responsibility because of that. But what could have happened to where it would warrant this? That's what I'm trying to figure out. What could have happened here that would have warranted such an outcome? And, like, I'm starting to think if, like, are all these things connected? Like, these most recent incidents? Coach taking the pills, Oishi disappearing, and then Rika turning up dead. Right? Like, it kind of feels like there's like, somehow these incidents are all connected because they're all happening the next day, right? They're all things that seem to have happened overnight or early in the morning. Rika is dead. Oishi goes missing. And the coach ODs on pills. And that's the thing. They feed us the little bits about Coach and Oishi first to make you think it's connected to Keiichi wishing death upon them. But then now they drop this bombshell of Rika, which obviously has no connection to anything Keiichi was saying the day before, because of course Keiichi would never wish death upon Rika. But why? That's the thing. Why? This is the one thing I'm struggling to like think of. Like, what would be the motive behind Rika's death? In the previous chapter, it made sense. That's the thing. In the previous chapters, like I could kind of piece together the motives for people dying, right? I could like, at least wager a guess. Even if I'm not right, I could still like, theorize what could have been, right? Why the mayor and Rika had to die, why Shion got kidnapped and all that, or even just Tomitake and Takano's deaths across all these chapters. Like, I can theorize as to why they happened. I can like wager a guess. This is like the first one that's hit that I'm just like, why? And like even up to this point, even with the bits about Coach and Oishi, like Oishi completely disappearing because he's gone like under the radar and he's like trying to like either because he is connected to this group, but he realized that things are happening without his knowledge, so he's worried he might be next on the list or something. Or even if he's not a corrupt cop, he's like going totally dark, trying to like crack down as to what's happening, especially after he totally fails to turn up the body of Teppei, right? I could theorize as to why Oshi's gone missing. And same with the coach, I could theorize that like there was some kind of because he failed to sedate Keiichi, failed to get him under control, or he failed in some other way, and maybe he failed in some way that's connected to Rika for all I know. Like not being able to live with that failure, or being forced due to whoever the higher ups are to, and it being like staged to look like it was self-inflicted. Like I have like some theories as to why that could have happened. The Rika one though is so strange because I genuinely don't understand it. It feels so out of left field. So like I feel like I'm missing something, but I just don't feel like there's anything there quite yet. Also her her midsection being split open vertically, that's an interesting picture to paint. But why, right? There's got to be a why for it. There's got to be a reason she was gutted and stuffed in a donation box, right? Because at least when she was killed in chapter 2, from what we're told anyway, whether or not it's true or not, we don't really know for sure because we weren't there to actually witness it. And even then, we can't trust Keiichi's vision 100% of the time, especially in moments like those, in these intense moments towards the ends of the chapter. But when Rika died in the previous chapter, she was killed in a way that would torture Shion, so that Shion would have to watch and be, have to live with that guilt, and then her body was disposed of at the bottom of the well, right? But this just seems like it's supposed to send some kind of message, right? It doesn't feel like a mysterious death. She didn't disappear, right? But this doesn't seem like one they can just like, just kind of like wave off. This doesn't seem like a freak death they can just like, be like, like with Tometake, it's like, oh, the village just be like, yeah, he went crazy, just clawed his own throat out. That's crazy. Must be the curse. And I guess in a sense you could pin this on the curse because it's happening on shrine grounds, maybe. But fuck, man, I don't know. That's I'm really being thrown for a loop with this one. I'm really being thrown for a loop with this one. All right, let's see what else the game has to throw at me about it. Also, I'm not turning the music back on until the scene changes. I don't want to hear that fuck-ass noise anymore. Crows couldn't have done this. Yeah, duh. And from her open stomach, yeah, that's probably what the crows are pecking at. Ugh. Her organs, her bowels were dragged out like children's toys left all over the floor. The unbelievable sight induced oxygen deprivation in my brain. Can I turn the fucking sound back on? Nope. Color left my vision. A pounding headache, dizzy, and I wanted to vomit. It was like the nightmare's remains of a ceremonial killing. That's fucking exactly what it is. That's why I'm so curious about it. The fact that it seems so ceremonial. That's why it's really piqued my interest and why I want to get to the bottom of like, why? Well, I want to know the why behind this. Someone, somewhere, had killed Rika-chan, brought her here, laid her here with her limbs sprawled out, and then cut open her stomach and dragged out her intestines. Red and pink viscera were sticking out of her gut, and her intestines were scattered in every direction, like it had been for fun. The entire ground was covered in an ocean of red and black. A few of the crows had hopped around inside that ocean. They walked through the sea of blood, leaving bloody footprints. And those footprints, there were several still left on Rika-chan's body. Those sinister prints made it seem even more like a bizarre ritual killing. I may have wished for Takuno-san and Coach and Oishi to die, but I didn't remember ever wishing for Rika-chan's death.
そうさ、俺じゃない。俺じゃない。
Now is not the time to think about yourself, jackass. Can I turn on the audio again, or are you still making that fuck ass noise? God damn it.
俺じゃない。
I stumbled backwards and stepped on a newspaper. A newspaper? In a place like this? The newspaper was what was covering my hatchet. I had kept it wrapped up on my belt in order to carry Satoko, and that newspaper had fallen off. Sheesh, don't scare me like that. This man carried the hatchet around. Just in case, because just in case the uncle showed up. Didn't want to leave the hatchet behind. And now Satoko sees her best friend fucking disemboweled. And then she's gonna look over and realize Keiichi's been carrying around a hatchet after he confessed to being a murderer. Like, my fucking guy, you are so fucked. God, I'm still hung up on Rika's death though. Like, fuck, whatever. Keep going. I bent down to pick it up, and then Satoko looked at me with such disbelief as I'd never seen, and froze. She was looking straight at me, at the hatchet on my belt.
落ち着け。これは 違うぞ。
Satoko, trembling madly, backed away.
俺じゃない。俺じゃないんだ。俺じゃ。
She didn't care at all that she was exposing herself through the towel. She just trembled, tried to step back from the demon in front of her.
サトコ、頼むから。サト。
Screaming weakly, Satoko began to run unsteadily. Run away, that is.
待ってくれ、サトコ。
Can I please turn the music back on? Okay, thank God.
違うんだ。違うんだ。
The way she ran away, it was so weak, so slow. Yeah, because that's definitely going to help her fucking perception of you. She sees you fucking holding a hatchet, her best friend disemboweled, and now you're chasing after her, yelling, "Wait! No! Don't run away from me! Get back here! Wait! Let me explain!" Like... fuck. So if I wanted to go after her, I could have caught up. But if I tried to grab Satoko's shoulder or something right now, she might actually go crazy. So I had to follow her and try to clear this up. Yeah, naturally, I had to chase her with the hatchet in my hands, of course. Like, what else was I going to do?
高野さんを殺して監督を殺し、大石さんも殺した、星様を殺そうとして理科まで。人殺し。
違う、俺じゃない。俺は殺してなんか。
何を言ってるん？あなたさっき自分で死ねって、それでみんな死んでしまったん。
死ねって思っただけで。
自分で何をしたか記憶に、そんな人の話なんか信用できるわけありませんわ。人を殺した時の記憶が欠落してるだけなんじゃありませんの？いや、記憶がないふりをしてるだけ。第一、そのなた説明してごらんな。ほらほら、圭一さんは殺人鬼じゃありませんの。
I mean, she does got you there. Like, why do you even have that hatch in the first place? What are you planning on doing with it? Uh-huh.
どうしてです？ちょっと意地悪だったけど、楽しくて優しい。どうしてそんな風になってしまったんですの？
I might have been able to slowly answer each one of Satoko's questions at a time. But in this situation, explaining my innocence in such a short period of time was impossible. Also, innocence? Like, genuinely, I don't know if you are. Fuck, that could be the whole plot twist of this, is that he did actually kill all these people. And they're just framed, and like, because that's the thing, it kind of, the picture they kind of paint with it, is that like, Keiichi, his own point of view, his own perspective on things is not reliable. You can't trust anything that we see from his point. Essentially, like, kind of from what he's saying, like when Oishi shows up, right, when things start to go south. So pretty much from like the moment Oishi appears in a story, I kind of got to start questioning Keiichi's point of view on things, Keiichi's perspective. Because, like, is it actually true? Because genuinely, from what it sounds like he's fucking delusional. That he's trying to paint it as, like, he's trying to paint this picture of, like, yeah, no, I wished for it, but I didn't do it myself. But do we even know that for sure? We don't. Because that is the thing with both the night of the Watanagashi and both the day after. We don't actually see him go home. He wakes up at home, right? We see him wake up in his room, but he never actually goes home. Or no, we don't. He does go home, clearly. We don't see him, when he arrives at home. We don't have like a point in the timeline where he actually gets home. We really don't know for sure. So, like, could he have killed Takano? Maybe. That's probably the hardest one to explain away, honestly. For all we know, we saw from Keiichi's perspective that, he just escaped out of the hospital. But if they were that concerned about him, that worried about him, surely they would have sent someone after him, right? Surely they would have done something. But what if instead Like, for all I know, Keiichi, like, tampered with Irie's tea, right? Maybe Irie did prepare tea for them, but Keiichi was so paranoid and delusional that Irie is like, oh, I have a phone call, I need to step out and take this. And then Keiichi fucking spikes his tea with something. Makes it look like a fucking suicide. There was the interaction with Oishi that night. And Oishi just walked away. But did he really? Maybe he did actually encounter Oishi. But maybe it didn't end well for Oishi, for all we fucking know. Because that's the thing. You never see Oishi, like, pull up in his car. You never see him, like, get to his car and drive away after it's all over. He just, like, kind of randomly appears and then disappears just as quickly. Just poof, he's gone. For all we know, he absolutely could have stumbled into Keiichi. There could have been an altercation, and fucking Keiichi dug a hole. For all we know, and he said he dug the hole, and the hole got dug deeper than before. Oishi's a big man, potentially even bigger than Teppei was. For all we know, maybe Keiichi just dug a bigger hole. That's when he sees the drainage pipe and figures, well, that's as deep as I can go, and dumps Oishi's body in there. Genuinely, it very much feels like Keiichi has been fucking murdering. And maybe I'm just buying into it too easily. Maybe that's what they want me to think, and I'm just falling for it way too easily. But, like, if there's anything I've noticed over the last, especially after chapter 2, is that we cannot trust Keiichi's point of view on things. So maybe I'm completely wrong about all this and it hasn't been Keiichi killing people, but I still can't fully trust his point of view on things. That still doesn't explain away Rika, though. That's the one that, like, how would Rika have gotten caught up in these things? Unless there's another person involved, right, who knows what Keiichi's doing, and they did it intentionally to frame him, right? I could potentially see that. They know that and maybe you could even explain away Oishi and Irie with that as well. They did those deaths to frame Keiichi. They could be like, oh yeah, Keiichi had interactions with these people. Yeah, see, that's the thing. There's a lot of ways I could see. There's various ways I could see the deaths and disappearances of Irie and Oishi being explained away. It's the death of Rika that just really throws a fucking wrench in things. I mean, I didn't even know if I was really innocent anyway. I don't know if you are either. At the very least, I killed Satoko's uncle. There was no body, but I killed him. Without a doubt. At that point, I was far from innocent. And I wish Takano-san, Coach, and Oishi were dead. And that curse of mine was granted. When I wished for Takano-san to die, I didn't think of it as anything more than a normal thing you'd say to someone you didn't like. But then she actually did die. And I realized that if I wanted people to die, they would. And hoping it would happen again, I cursed Coach and Oishi to the same fate. So, even ignoring Takano-san's death, Coach's and Oishi's were completely premeditated crimes. And see, that's the thing. I could see that Takano's being purely coincidence, but it makes Keiichi believe that he gets it in his head that he has, like, this ability to curse people, right? And like I said, I feel like that could lead to Coach and Oishi's deaths like that, right? Like I said, Coach could have been, poisoned while Keiichi was there at the hospital. And then, Oishi approaches him one night, probably puts the screws to him. Keiichi gets all pissed off now. He's like, I wish you were dead. And then acts on that. But he has no memory of it, right? We have no because that's the thing. There was no scene from, you know, Oishi leaving the forest and Keiichi waking up at home. There was no scene where he arrives home. There's no establishing timeline of when Keiichi got home. That's all a blur. So it really feels like he did that. Was I the killer, just like Satoko said? I mean, when you kill once, you're a killer, let's be honest. So, if you really did kill her uncle, you've been a killer. Was I unable to distinguish between illusion and reality, and turned into a demon without remembering it, becoming a killer who carried out Yashiro-sama's curse? No, that couldn't be. It was impossible. Ah, damn it. The very word impossible is impossible in Hinamizawa right now. How many freaking times have I said this word these past 3 days? How many times have you said that word in the last fucking 24 hours? Satoko had started crying again and was walking unsteadily. First it felt like she was still running, but now it was like she was walking away, crying from someone bullying her. If there was an answer to that, then I wanted to know it too. Why? Why had it turned out like this? Yeah, she was right. Those days were bright and beautiful. And yet, after that, Satoko and I shouted the exact same thing. The cicadas were sneering at the spectacle, our strange game of tag. Shut up, shut up, shut up. Eventually I heard the murmuring of a stream. The forest parted and a suspension bridge appeared. No! No! Because how did Satoko's parents die? They fell off the observation deck into the water. Don't do this to me, dude. Satoko was crossing dangerously, wobbling as though she might fall at any moment. Okay, it looks like there's like some kind of guardrail in place though, so you don't fall off. But when I stepped onto the bridge, it swayed a lot, causing Satoko to stagger and fall on the spot. Satoko shouted, her hatred made very clear. It was sad. If words could cut, then this warmth flowing from my eyes would have been blood for sure. I wanted to go up to her and give her a hand, but the distance between us was uncrossable. If I got any closer, Satoko would start shouting again and say things that would hurt me deeply again. So I couldn't approach any closer than this.
Satoko, 俺にもなんででもリカちゃんを殺したのはそれだけは絶対に。い
い加減なこと言わん。自分の記憶にも自信が持てない人が何を言ったってどう信じればいいって言うんですの。
I tightened my hands into fists. This was mortifying. I wasn't crazy. Hinamizawa was crazy. Ever since I wandered into it, lost on that one night. Yeah, no, you're definitely the guy who's right when you're the one going, yeah, it can't be me, it's everyone else. This insane world, where I was at the festival when I wasn't, and the uncle I killed was alive. Where death would come just by wishing for it. It was this world's fault. Mion and Reina started acting strangely, like they were possessed by something too. And Coach wouldn't believe anything I had to say. And even Satoko, who I should have protected, was yelling at me like this. Was the price for killing a man supposed to be this high? Yeah. Was I really going to be forced to stay in such a bitter world? I did the right thing. At least I wanted to. So then, why? I hated it. Every time I asked why, the days Satoko and I enjoyed in peace went so wrong.
Satoko, 俺は人。
では、そのナタは何なんですの?
Please believe me, I'm not a murderer. I know I straight up admitted to killing your uncle, but believe me, I'm not a murderer. Yeah, no, it doesn't work like that, bud.
納得のいく説明はできまして。
このナタが怖いの。じゃあ捨てるよ。それなら安心だろ。
Satsuko didn't nod, but she seemed to be in agreement with that proposition. I clumsily took the hatch out of my belt, then dropped it over to the side of the bridge into the stream below.
捨て、これで話を聞いてく。
武器を捨てたくらいで気を許すと、圭一さんほどの方なら私を素手で絞め殺すなんて簡単でしょうに。
Like hell I would ever want to kill Satoko. You idiot.
じゃあどうしたらいい？両手を頭の上で組んだら。
そうですわね。両手を頭の上で組んで後ろを向いてくださいます。
It was a cunning plan, much like the ones she used during club activities. Putting my hands on my head and turning away would mean I couldn't attack Satoko very easily. I immediately acquiesced to her request so it would make her feel better.
これでいいか？俺の話を聞いてくれ。
Satoko stood up and then carefully approached me from behind. And then, she actually came right up behind me. She was so close, and I was so sad that I wasn't allowed to turn around. Satoko, the master of traps? Is she about to take homeboy out?
圭一さんが悪くないのは、多分あなたは何か悪いものに。さっきまでは圭一さんが殺人鬼なんだ。あなたの目を見ていたら。
But that's the thing, what could Satoko possibly have in her person to take Keiichi out? I could hear that Satoko was still crying, but her voice was gentle just the same.
圭一さんが圭一さんの体を何か悪いものが乗っ取って悪事に駆り立てただけ。
Was she speaking literally right now? Was she trying to admonish me? I couldn't tell.
思えばあの人たちも圭一さんと同じものに。あの時は殺されるとしか思わなかったから、今ならわかる。あれは乗り移った。
サトコ、何の話だ？
It was less like she was talking to me, more like she was talking to herself, like she was confessing at my back.
わかってるんですの。身に覚えがないわけじゃないんですのよ。
Satoko's voice started to become mixed with sobs. Her pained voice tore at my heart, but I didn't know what Satoko was talking about.
西宮殿の屋根に何年も前のことですわ。
Once, when Satoko was playing hide and seek at the shrine grounds, she climbed onto the roof of the storehouse for ritual implements, which everyone said not to go near, and hid. Then, Satoko saw that she could get in, through a window meant for ventilation. For Satoko, the word curse was plenty scary, but she was more curious about what was inside the unknown storehouse. She removed the grating on the window, which was already hanging off, slid her small body into it, and climbed down inside. How long ago did they say this was? A few years ago. Interesting. I'm guessing that has some connection as to why that is like another, and that's part of why Mion in chapter 2 said that that family was cursed and that Satoko herself was a cursed child. It was too dark to see much, but after descending, she realized just how high up she'd been. Despite the darkness, she could see a few things around her thanks to the faint light coming in from the air window. And to her disappointment, it was just a regular old storehouse. She tried to leave, but the door was locked up tight from the outside, and it was made to not open from within. She'd have to go back out through the ventilation window she'd come in from. But the window was high on the wall. There was no way she would be able to climb back up. Satoko desperately tried not to cry and racked her brain thinking of a way to get up there. There were a lot of birdcage-looking things hanging by chains from the ceiling. She took the hanging chains and strung them along the wall. If she climbed the bundle of chains, she might be able to manage to climb up to the ventilation window. There was nothing else she could do, so she had to try. And try she did. It was dark and creepy, and she didn't want to stay there forever. The more she thought about that, the more she panicked. She climbed the bundle of chains. Satoko could hear the clinks and clangs of everything creaking under her weight. And then, just as her hand reached the window, one of the metal fixtures she used to stick the chains on the wall flew off, and the chains all began to pull loudly and furiously every which way. Spurred on by the sounds behind her, she managed to get back onto the roof from the window. Because of the weight of the flailing bundle of chains, the other fixtures broke. One of the big bird cages hanging from the ceiling fell to the floor with a huge noise. Under it, was an image of a Yachiro-sama, his vessel, and the cage took off one of the arms, then trapped some other implements beneath it. It didn't take very long for her to grow scared of what she'd done. The deafening noise could be heard from the rest of the shrine grounds. A few other children heard it and gathered around, and of course, Rika was one of them. Then, Rika's father, the shrine's priest, with an angry look, ran over. Ah, I see. And then, as for what happened next, it was painful to remember. The only one who knew where Rika's parents kept the key to the ritual storehouse was Rika. So, he scolded her, saying this happened because Rika pulled a prank and hid me in there. He was very angry and menacing. Just looking at him was enough to frighten anyone. He exposed Rika's back, took a strangely shaped ritual cane or something, and struck her with it several times. Jesus. Rika's words at the time, "It wasn't me. It wasn't me. I'm sorry. I'm sorry." That pitiful voice, I still can't get out of my head. I should have said it was me. I should have said so, to save my best friend from that false accusation, without being afraid of Rika's father's terrible temper. Rika gritted her teeth and cried at the crime she didn't remember doing. Ever since then, the world had been strange.
分かってるんですの。これはお社様。あの時最後伝を怪我して
お社様の
父も母も濁流に意地悪だったおばも死んだけど、誰よりも私、そして圭一さんが転校してきて、やっとリカも殺されて聞いたの私。お社様は本当にたたりをなす時は親しい人から順に殺して、みんな殺してから最後に殺すんだって。
Girl, please do not jump off this bridge. Please don't do that to
だ
me.
から圭一さんもたたりにやられ、きっと今度はレナさんや、そして殺したりもういい。
落ち着けよ、さたたりなんかない。誰もお前をいじめたりなんかしないって。
When I turned around, I was thrust away with amazing force. Given my hands were awkwardly placed on my head, I couldn't take the fall and lost my balance. I had been pushed not into the bridge, but to the side. Towards the stream. No, this can't be happening. As one last miracle, I was allowed to grab a cord hanging from the bridge. Far below me was the stream. We were pretty high up, and below were rocks of all sizes. If I fell, it clearly wouldn't be pretty. The entire bridge was tilting under my body weight. My frail little grip probably wouldn't last another minute before my fingers had to let go. I didn't understand myself what I meant by shouting her name then. Was I asking her to save me? Or was I asking her why she did this? Finally, everything came back into focus, and I saw Satoko. And I was surprised at what an odd expression she had. It was the first time I'd seen it. It was an expression of righteous anger, meant only for those who needed to die. Yep. As she screamed, she jerked the bridge to and fro. She didn't have to do that. I was going to fall anyway. See, that's the thing. In that CG, right? The towel was actually wrapped around her body. Like, let me just look something up real quick. I want to see if they actually like fixed that in any of the later sprites. I want to see if they actually like said, hey, we'll actually, you know, put her in a damn. Yeah, no, in the console sprites, the towel is actually wrapped all the way around her body. In the Steam sprites, okay, no, the Steam sprites also have it the same way as the OG sprites, where it only covers up her front and not the entire body, which makes no fucking sense. When you say you wrap her up in a towel, that means they're wrapped up in a towel. I guess that's like the one thing the fucking console sprites definitely did well, is making sure like, oh hey, she's actually wrapped in the towel and it's not just dangling off her front end. Whatever.
タタリなんかに負けてたまるもんですか。お前になんか絶対に負けない。みんなを奪ったお前に絶対に負けたりなんかしない。
サトコ、これだけは聞いてくれ。
I don't know what my face looked like at that time, but it seemed like it was enough to quell Satoko's
俺
agitation.
のしたことは、いや、いけないことだったかもしれない。だけど、お前に幸せになってほしくって、それだけは信じてくれ。
最後の最後でケイチさんのふりを。
Sasuke didn't seem to have any more desire to listen to what I had to say. And for that to happen at the very end like this was tragic.
お前に褒められたくてやったわけじゃなかった。お前に幸せになってさえもらう。俺たちはダメ。お前が笑っていないと。だから俺が消えたら、俺が死ぬことで新しい生活を迎えたなら、それだけ約束。
喋るな。ケイチさんの口調で喋るな。落ちろ。落ちてしまえ。
And those were the last words Satoko ever said to me. Those sad, tragic, and altogether unrewarding words. What on earth was I? My desire to make Satoko happy ended up like this. Where did I first go wrong? And what was the mistake I made? When did I make it? Was I the crazy one? Or was it Hinamizawa? Even after all of this, I thought I wasn't crazy at all. It was this eerie world that was crazy. This world I'd accidentally wandered into that one night. Because that fun world, where I never doubted all the crazy times we had as a club, would go on forever. It couldn't possibly have transformed into such an abnormal world. That fun world wouldn't have ever ended with this, with Satoko pushing me to my death. In the end, I was going to be swallowed up by this crazy world and disappear. No, I'd probably already disappeared. Yes, probably. On the night of Watanagashi. I'm sure that in the world I really belonged to, I had vanished that night, and everyone was worried. It was laughable that I had taken this long to figure out I wasn't around anymore. Oyashiro-sama's curse on the 5th year was Santoko's uncle dying, and me disappearing. In the real world, Satoko had already been freed. Maybe my friends were all lamenting my disappearance and valiantly trying to get back on their feet. And even though they were down to 4 people, the club would reopen and they would have a good time without me, waiting for the day when I would come back. I'm sorry, everyone. I couldn't come back home. But this is what I wished for. It was my wish for Satoko's smile and my duty as her Nini. At this point, there'll be nobody left to torture you. Because Satoshi and I, it took 2 years, but we succeeded. That annoying, toothy smile of yours. We wanted to see it one more time. My pain wasn't gentle or merciful. It was a sharp pain, violent, powerful, and ruthless. What little compassion I had receded in the span of a moment. And now, I could die. I could say goodbye to this insane world. Farewell, crazed Hinamizawa. Thanks for giving me the psychic power to kill people whenever I wanted. If you'll still allow it, I wish for one last thing. The death of this very world, of this crazed Hinamizawa, so that nobody would ever again have to find themselves lost here again. Interesting. And see, that's another thing I'm starting to think might be a possibility as well. it was kind of something I was keeping in the back of my head, but like the fact that maybe Keiichi had already been dead. I still don't know if I fully believe that though. But like that's definitely what it was starting to seem like. Research notes. What were we researching? Oyashiro-sama. Nobody really knows what characters to use to write Oyashiro-sama. Knowing this is hard partly because depending on the time period, he has been called with various titles with subtle changes to his name, and nobody knows the real one. The only thing all time periods agree on is that 4 syllables, o, ya, shi, and ro, are always used. There is a theory stating that the shrine, or yashiro, dedicated to Oyashiro-sama itself, became an object of worship, and that people began calling it O Yashiro-sama, or Lord Honorable Shrine, but this doesn't make a bit of sense. I don't know whether this is related, but people say the Hurade family, the most respected bloodline in terms of worshipping Oyashiro-sama, actually inherited his blood. And in the legend, the Hurade family passes down. If, for 8 generations in a row, the firstborn child is a girl, the 8th daughter will be the reincarnation of Oyashiro-sama. Oh? If we go by this legend, the characters used for Oyashiro-sama's name should be O for honorable, Ya for 8, and Shiro for generation. These character assignments are simply something I've thought up. There is no way to verify it. If this is true, then Oyashiro-sama would have been named as such under the assumption he would come again. The second coming of an object of worship can be seen in several religions, so this isn't unusual. But a few of these religions call the second coming of their object a worship a day of judgment, or something along those lines, and we must not forget that they mean it to be the end of the world. Rika Hurade, pampered and loved dearly by the elderly folk in the village. The rumors say she is the 8th generation, and Oyashiro-sama. I do not know the family tree of the Hurades, but at the very least I can confirm that for the past 2 generations the first child has been a girl. Rika Hurade watches over Hinamizawa. If the village were to lose her protection, what would happen? Would peace between man and demon be lost? Would it once again create a hellish landscape where man-eating demons run rampant? A gruesome feast of the demons, who suddenly remembered how delicious the weak humans were, who could only cry, scream, and run for their lives. What would that look like? Just imagining it is enough to make my heart pound with excitement. Thanks for your input, Takano. Well, that's the last of our notes. Oh yeah, now is the police report, right? That usually comes at the end of the chapters. My head was pounding. Nope. The sky was bright. It was cold, too. It hurt. Each sensation I felt led to a new and different one awakening. When I came to, I was lying face first on a dry riverbed. A few body parts hurt a lot. The skin over a bunch of my joints was torn, turned blue or red or oozing blood. Couldn't tell if it was my bones that were in pain from the agony I felt whenever I moved. I looked up and saw how high the bridge from which I had fallen was. Considering I dropped from there, it was a miracle that I could open my eyes again. Right next to me was a broken, upside-down car seat, which I guess some pranksters had brought here. Maybe this thing had been conveniently lying right under me, allowing me to escape instant death. Miraculous. Of course, I didn't know whether this miracle was fortunate or unfortunate. I'd failed to die, and now I was still stuck in this insane world. How long had I been unconscious for? The sun was high in the sky, so it looked like only 1 or 2 hours had passed. But my body's sluggishness didn't make it feel like so short a time had gone by. Mentally, it felt like I'd been asleep here for a decade. The more feeling returned to my body, the more the pain flooded in. It hurt so much it would have been better to have not woken up. I needed to get to a doctor. Yeah, to Coach's clinic. Oh, right. The term Coach's clinic brought memories back one after another. Memories I wish I hadn't recalled. Satoko was no longer on the bridge. She would have returned to Hinamizawa by now, and she would put on some clothes, go to the clinic, get a checkup, and report on how crazy I had seemed. The police were waiting for me without a doubt. This time, would they find out for real that I'd killed her uncle and arrest me, or would they just send me to a mental institution like I thought they might? Still, I didn't care which it was. Please, someone, stop all this pain. You can boil me or cook me after that, whatever you want. I began to walk unsteadily, just limping along. Honestly, I'm surprised Homeboy can even walk, but alright. I went downstream, and then through an animal trail-like path in the woods. I walked haphazardly, searching for a path I knew. Oh, you're walking along the woods, are you? It's still possible. Fall into the grave that you dug. Please. It'd be so fucking poetic. Do it. It'd be absolute cinema. Damn it. Eventually, I finally came across a familiar road and set off towards the clinic. Not to my house, but to the clinic, which had treated me like a lunatic. It was hot and humid. There was no wind and the air was stagnant. For a while now, I've been smelling the terrible stench of burned eggs, made my face scrunch up. And then, at last, I noticed something. I couldn't hear any cicadas. Burnt eggs. Fuck, that's a sign of something. What is it? It was the first time I'd heard Hinamizawa be so utterly silent. When I thought back, it seemed like birds always chirped in the morning, cicadas always cried loudly in the afternoon, and Higurashi always rose up in the chorus in the evening. Always something to hear. Couldn't hear a single insect. The only thing I could hear was the rustling of the wind brushing the treetops. I'd never experienced this sort of quiet before. Even the only sound coming from the trees lacked life somehow. The trees were yellow, and many leaves were spread on the ground, despite it being too early for autumn. Even the weeds that had been growing so persistently at the side of the road had yellowed, browned, and lost their vigor. Only the sunlight itself was of the June Hinamizawa I knew. Yet it seemed like the seasons had switched all of a sudden. Looking at the fallen leaves and rotting weeds led me to a spot a few small insects turned on their back. They weren't moving. They were corpses. Out closer to see insect corpses scattered all around, like a child had collected them as samples and then strewn them about. The stench. What was it? It was terrible. Like burned eggs. Combined with all the bug corpses and leaves falling from the trees in summer. Had someone sprayed herbicides or pesticides around here? Even at school, we apparently fumigate. They call it pest disinfection or something, once or twice a year. I hadn't run into anybody, despite how bright it was outside. It was mid-afternoon, yet it felt like I was sauntering about at midnight. But with this smell, nobody would want to be walking around outside. Just what was this anyway? There was no sound, no noise, not even a breath. Hinamizawa was silent. The school had come into view right after turning this corner. Yet I couldn't hear any commotion at all. None of the shouts or grunts that children always made. It was simply quiet. Just as pretending to ignore the silence had grown intolerable, I saw the school. And finally, I heard something. It was the sound of a few trucks. There were a few very tall trucks parked in the schoolyard, idling. About 10 workers in raincoats were unloading things from their trunks. It was hot and humid, even in my casual clothing. Couldn't imagine how unbearable that must have been. Then I remembered. Our school was rented from the Forest Service field office building, wasn't it? It wasn't strange at all for Forest Service trucks to be doing some kind of work in the schoolyard. Besides, what did forest rangers do anyway? Felt bad for them having to work in such heat and with such a stench about. They were taking colorful cargo out of the truck and lining it up in the schoolyard. They were containers, very large ones, inside multicolored patchwork bags. Heavy. Too heavy, too. They were being carried in pairs. They lined them up very neatly like tuna at a riverside fish market. Several dozens, hundreds of tuna were completely filling the fairly wide schoolyard up. Forgot my pain for a little while, captivated by this big forest ranger job I'd never seen before. As I stood there watching in a daze, the people in raincoats working on the other side noticed me. One of them pointed me out and they shouted a few things back and forth. Thought they might yell at me for getting in their way, so I decided to leave post-haste. But then 2 trucks drove up behind me. I stepped aside and they entered the schoolyard. Sheets covered their trunks and I could tell they were completely full. As they passed, there was an awful smell that made me want to choke. He said they had large bags, right? Large containers inside multicolored patchwork bags. So that wouldn't be body bags, would it? Because I'm thinking, okay, there's burnt eggs. Isn't that the smell of like sulfur, if I'm not mistaken? Or is that just like eggs? Let me just see if I can smells like burnt eggs. What? Sulfur. Or a potential dangerous natural gas or sewer leak. And he's saying like Hinamizawa is silent. He's saying like the trees are dying, the bugs are dead, but it's still summer, right? Right, the leaves shouldn't be falling off the trees shouldn't be changing colors. Unless there was a large gas leak. Is that what's happening? Is like the entire fucking village... Are these people being affected by a gas leak in the village? That's why some people get delusional. That's why some people get unreasonably violent and paranoid. They're suffering from a gas leak. Some people just die suddenly. Like, you know, Tometake starts fucking freaking the fuck out. You know, claws his own throat out and whatnot. But how would that happen? Where would that come from? That's what I'm curious of. Because that's clearly what it seems to be. Let me pull up Google again out of curiosity. Leaks also damage soil and vegetation, often causing premature tree death. Okay. Leaks from abandoned wells or pipelines can fill enclosed spaces, posing explosion hazards outdoors. They can be detected by natural... blah, blah, blah. Okay, interesting. So, I then wanted to look up what, like, certain symptoms of methane gas poisoning are. And we have things like increased heart rate. We have things like decreased vision, especially in low light settings, which is interesting. However, there's one that says loss of memory, which is I could see how that could lead into some things here. Weakness and fatigue, that's something we've seen a lot out of Keiichi recently. He seems very weak and fatigued like all the time. But then also emotional responses is one of the symptoms here, which I think is very interesting. Because we know that Keiichi already gives into his emotions very easily. So if there were some kind of natural gas leak amongst the village that would make you more emotional. Interesting. Interesting. Very interesting. Because from what we're seeing here, that seems to be the case. From what I'm seeing anyway, that seems to be the case. There is a natural gas leak, which I can only assume is methane, and that from what I've read thus far, what I briefly read, no, it doesn't mention anything about like hallucinations. However, there is memory loss and emotional responses and stuff like that, which leads me to believe like there could be something there. And also the awful smell, you know, methane has like an additive. Natural gas leaks that are contained anyway have like something added to them that causes that smell. There's an additive there that typically has that, you know, sulfuric smell. It wasn't the same burned egg smells before, but an even worse one like rotten crab meat. What on earth was it? I've been enshrouded in one terrible stench after another all day. Then certain white letters emblazoned on the side of the passing trucks caught my eye. Yeah? Ground Self-Defense Forces. isn't that like the equivalent of the Japanese military? They don't actually have like a military, but they have the self-defense. What? Self-defense forces? Like the army? Why was the army in the schoolyard?
おい君、どこから入ってきた？
Suddenly, someone slapped me on the shoulders from behind. I turned around and a canopied SDF Jeep was parked there. The SDF person had on a green raincoat and a gas mask in the movies, carrying a compressed air cylinder. He didn't look normal. There wasn't an inch of exposed skin anywhere.
どこから入ってきた？ててててて。
When I tried to talk, I stretched a wound on my head. Made the SDF people exchange glances. Couldn't see their faces through their masks, but they seemed surprised.
君は住所と名前は？
一応名前は前原圭一で、あ、住所は獅子骨市Hinamizawa村。
After seeing me tell them my name and address without hesitation, one of the SDF people watching from the Jeep started talking into a radio.
本部、応答願います。本部、402生存者発見。繰り返す。402生存者発見。場所は営林署入り口前。生存者は全身に外傷を認められ、自立歩行可能。これより保護し、本部へ送致します。
I was prepared to go along with the police, but the SDF couldn't help but think it seemed a little much. They urged me into the back of the Jeep, and then they told me to put on this gigantic gas mask. I did so, and one of the troops fiddled around with it, strapping it tightly to me. It was heavy, hard to see out of, and hot and difficult to breathe. Just looking at the world through the lenses made it lose its sense of reality. My breathing sounded like some giant monster through the mask. At this point, I had no idea what was happening. With much trepidation, I asked the trooper adjusting my mask.
何かあったん？
君は何をしていたんだ？
Hey, don't answer a question with more questions. I was the one asking you.
ずっと山に入ったところに河原で多分気絶してました。今日が何曜日かも。
今日は昭和58年の6月2日水曜日だ。
That surprised me. Satoko pushed me off the bridge on Tuesday the 21st. That meant I'd been asleep on that riverbed for an entire day.
改めて聞きますけど、なんで自衛隊何かの訓練ですか？
Had my question been that difficult for him? None of the troopers would answer me. The one in the driver's seat, talking on his own radio, turned on the vehicles. He turned the dial and some broadcast station or another came in. Started to listen to the voice of a radio announcer I was familiar with.
より首相官邸で行われました。記者団からの自衛隊の災害出動が迅速に行われなかったことが前例のない未曾有の大災害に直結したのではないかとの質問でありまして、県知事からの派遣要請を受けて迅速とこのように述べ、要請を受けてからの自衛隊の出動は迅速であった。むしろ県側の事態把握に遅れがあった可能性を示唆しました。
The prefecture's responsibility, so meaning like the people in power, meaning people like the Sonozakis, mayhaps? Not wanting things to happen to the village, but... And is that why people keep dying and being demoned away? Because they're showing... Either A, they find out about whatever this gas leak is, or B, they show symptoms of it. They show signs of being affected by it.
そもそも自衛隊の派遣を要請した県知事は災害発生から前例のない大災害であることをいつ認識できたのか、そして災害派遣要請までにいわゆるお役所的なロスタイムが生じ被害の拡大を招いたのではないか。首相官邸より報道部の尾形記者がお送りしました。さてここでもう一度災害発生からの行政の対応を振り返ります。
In the middle of the night, between June 21st and June 22nd, a large-scale disaster broke out in Hinamizawa village, Shishibone. The details have not yet been investigated, but there was an eruption of volcanic gas from somewhere in the Hinamizawa area. The gas was relatively heavy. As it spewed out, it began to flow. That flow went down along a small river and headed directly into Hinamizawa village. After a few hours, it had covered the entire region. It happened in the middle of the night. Okay, so this isn't something that's been like slowly happening over the last few years. This is something that has happened overnight. Interesting. 2 to 4 a.m. Every home and household in the village was afflicted. With most of the residents asleep, it is thought that all died without noticing the crisis. The catastrophe striking in the middle of the night caused its detection to come too late. But there was still one small opportunity to have noticed it. 3 a.m. A news dealer's shop in Okinomiya sent a vehicle carrying the morning newspaper to its branch office in Hinamizawa. Usually the shop would be contacted upon the vehicle's arrival, but this morning that didn't happen. The news dealer's shop made repeated calls but got no response. The shopkeeper sent his eldest son to check on things, but they lost contact with him as well.
非常に悔やまれています。この時点で警察か消防への連絡があったなら、事態はもっと改善されていた可能性が高いでしょう。
6 a.m.
裏全滅という惨劇は免れた可能性があります。
Residents in areas in the same region began continuously calling 119 to report the smell of rotten eggs, dizziness, nausea, and headaches. Which is a sign of, yeah. The fire department received the same reports, all from the same confined region. They speculated a truck loaded with chemicals may have gotten into an accident and reported it to the local police. 6:30 a.m. Contact was lost with a patrol car on duty in the Hinamizawa area after the officer reported the smell of rotten eggs. That's when Oishi went to... Well, no, that would have been... Well, no, Oishi had already disappeared at that point, but yeah. The local police considered the possibility of a large-scale disaster involving highly lethal gas and reported to the prefecture and prefectural police at 7:15 a.m. 8 a.m. The governor was traveling to nearby prefectures for inspection, so in accordance with regulations, the prefectural environmental disaster prevention chief was provisionally escalated to Director General and set up a disaster countermeasures office. However, without contacting the governor, the countermeasures came too late.
近年、市民団体によって指摘されていますが、議員待遇者との視察旅行は完全に親睦を目的にしたもので、近い筋の話では知事は徹夜で飲んだくれて泥酔状態で就寝していたそうです。環境部長から電話があった時も泥酔していて、全く取り合ってもらえなかったのだそうです。
And so the authorities, in the hour or so it took for the governor to grasp the situation and sober up, did nothing but accumulate information.
知事は言うに及びませんが、知事不在時には本部長を務めることになる環境部長にも怠慢の責任が問われるでしょう。また、県としても大災害を想定したマニュアルが用意されておらず、対応が常に後手に回ってしまったのが致命的です。
Oh, wait, no. Because, right, when Keiichi fell off the bridge, as he was losing consciousness, he said, I wish this whole world would just die. He said that. I wish this crazed Hinamizawa would just die. Jesus fuck. Alright, maybe Keiichi's got more say with the universe than I thought. Goddamn. 9:12 a.m. On the advice of the prefectural police, the governor requested a disaster relief mission from the SDF. By the time the chemical defense unit, equipped with protective equipment, arrived on the scene, 8 hours had already passed since the incident's outbreak.
とにかく深夜の就寝中というのが不運でした。同じ災害でも日中に起こっていれば全く違ったでしょう。
And of course it happened in the middle of the night while Keiichi himself was unconscious. All households in the Hinamizawa village region were wiped out. There were over 1,000 victims. The SDF is still confirming the situation on the ground, but the results are predicted to only increase that number.
スタジオにはゲストとして火山性の災害にお詳しい地学博士の藤原先生にお越しいただいております。
火口部に限定して申し上げれば決して珍しいことではありません。火山大国日本にはたくさんの活火山がありますが、それらの火口部はいずれも危険なガスの噴出する危険性があり、
では今回南沢村を襲った卵のフラン臭のするガスというのも、
卵のフラン臭という特徴から、おそらく火山ガスの中でも事故例の多い硫化水素によるものだと考えられます。高い濃度であれば非常に危険なものです。
So the gas could have been leaking for a while, right? But then there was an eruption of gas that actually wiped out the village. So like because they're in like this cratered area, the gas could have been leaking and building up in Hinamizawa for a while. So it's like the longer you're there, the more you're affected by it, right? And that's what, maybe that's why it wasn't as noticeable, right? They didn't notice the smell right away because it wasn't so dense and concentrated as it is from, you know, a massive volcanic eruption.
hinamizawa村は火山の火口部とは全く縁遠い場所にあるわけですが、 そういった火口部でない場所にも、
Well, they're
そ
not
の
even near
硫
crater.
化水素が発生することがあるのでしょうか。
詳しいことが分かっていないのでまだはっきりとしたことは申し上げられませんが、外国の例で温泉の地下のマグマだまりからガスが噴出したという記録があります。
先生、ありがとうございました。今、防衛庁から発表があった模様です。防衛庁の森川さん。
はい、防衛庁です。先ほど防衛庁はHinamizawa村ガス災害の主原因となった火山性ガスについて陸上自衛隊科学学校での分析の結果、
森川さん、そのガスは依然として噴出を続け、
現在Hinamizawa村で救助活動に入っている自衛隊第9師団の報告としてガスの濃度は徐々に薄まりつつある。ですが依然Hinamizawa村地区は危険な状態にあることには変わりなく、
防衛庁から報道部の森川記者がお伝えしました。続きまして、避難を余儀なくされている沖宮地区住民の模様をリポートします。現在避難所の一つとなっている。
何ですかそれ。
Inside the jeep, clambering and bouncing along the rough road, none answered my muttered question. An unprecedented catastrophe had destroyed Hinamizawa in a single night. Where was Hinamizawa village anyway? Some place deep in the mountains, right? Names of places I heard about on the radio were always like that. They were all places I'd never heard of, much less knew the locations of. Wiped out? What does that mean? Don't they usually say how many died and how many were injured? How many people were alive? Where did everyone evacuate to? Motherfucker, did you not just listen to the whole radio broadcast? It happened while everyone was asleep. No one evacuated. I know he's just in denial, but still. Eventually, we came into view of Coach's clinic. For the first time, I saw the flag of Japan hanging on a pole outside. Japan's circular sun hung down as though exhausted. Many SDF tents were set up in the clinic's big parking lot. Many strict security vehicles were parked there as well. When they saw the jeep coming, men in white clothing and gas masks came running out of the clinic, frantic, carrying a stretcher.
もう大丈夫だよ。具合は歩けるかい？
歩けます。
And because of my ows, they forced me to lay on the stretcher anyway. People who seemed like doctors were looking at me and notifying others of my condition via radio.
外傷多数、骨折もしくは内臓損傷の可能性大。頭部に大きな裂傷、瞳孔正常。眼底に出血なくも脳内損傷の可能性は否定できず。
And then, from the clinic entrance, people lying on stretchers were brought outside to replace me. Judging by their clothing, they were from Hinamizawa. That's how I knew they were victims. They brought the stretchers in front of a truck. Two troops, holding shoulders and legs like some kind of baggage, picked them up and threw them into the trunk. In the trunk of the truck, people's bodies piled in heaps. They were just like baggage that told me they were already nothing but shells. At that moment, I remembered all those colorful sacks filling the trunks, and them lined up in the schoolyard like a fish market. Hundreds of empty shells. Corpses. 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 Corpses.
バカ！犠牲者を粗末に扱う。彼は村の住民だぞ。
Troops carrying the sacks answered with a humble salute. The world didn't need this insane version of Hinamizawa. My final wish. Again, it was granted. I didn't understand anything anymore. None of it mattered. I wished, I cursed, then it happened the next day. Then please, tomorrow morning, let me die. That insane night, it's still going on. Please, please, end it already.
おい、意識が損失。患者の名前を早く。
前原君、聞こえるかい？聞こえるならまばたき。前原君、前原君、前原君。
Suddenly, the world didn't matter to me anymore. I wasn't interested in their
呼
cries.
吸が停止したぞ。気道確保。人工呼吸。絶対に生かせ。畜生。畜生。もうこれ以上死者はごめんだぞ。死んでもいい命な。殺すな。殺すな。
I could hear the voice of a man crying and screaming in my ears. Nobody deserves to die. Those words came from his heart. They were so so commonplace, and they soaked into my heart too. Maybe it was a mistake to take someone's life, even if it was to save Satoko. If this is the price I had to pay, this horrible tragedy, this is a little much, Oyashiro-sama. Why? Why did you never punish me? Come to think of it, Satoko said something, yeah. It kills everyone around you, and then finally you. Oyashiro-sama's actual curse never goes for the target at first, but kills everyone they love before that. Oyashiro-sama's curse. It was a convenient excuse I told myself at the very end, that it wasn't my curse that destroyed it, but Oyashiro-sama's. Given that I was in a stretcher, this next bit might have been obvious. But last of all, I realized one thing. Yeah. Today, I had not heard those footsteps following me, even once. And now, I was liberated. As the cries of the Higurashi I couldn't have been hearing filled my mind, their tearful ensemble was the only funeral march I had. June 22nd, 1983, early morning. A widespread disaster occurred in Hinamizawa village, Shishibone Prefecture. Volcanic gas, carbon dioxide, and hydrogen sulfide erupted from Onagahuchi Swamp, one of the Hinamizawa area's water sources, and spread through the entire village. Oh, from the swamp. Oh, don't tell me it ties into the motorcycle being in there. There were 1,200 victims. 20 have gone missing. The catastrophe was unprecedented, forcing local governments to evacuate approximately 600,000 people. According to later investigations, magma pools and hot springs were uncovered directly under Onagahuchi Swamp. Okay. And the gas that gushed from it was determined to be the cause of the disaster. In addition, directly after the incident broke out, many came forth claiming this disaster was a curse based in Hinamizawa village legends, first sparking a wave of chaos. There were apparently local legends of a curse spreading a miasma, destroying the village. And some scholars believe a similar gas disaster may have happened in the past and remained part of these legends. Oh. More extreme periodicals suggested this was an extension of the string of freak death incidents that had been happening in recent years in Hinamizawa village, stirring interest in theories about this curse for Yashiro-sama. In addition, relatives of those in Hinamizawa village who had escaped the disaster complained of sickness afterwards and were hospitalized. Some of them even died of unknown causes, further encouraging such extreme opinions. On top of that, several relatives professing to be possessed by Yashiro-sama's curse committed suicide in strange ways. And the impact the disaster has had on the entire nation can no longer be ignored. Wild visions of terrible toxic gas sneaking around in the middle of the night, killing people, spilled across the country, causing a steady stream of people complaining of insomnia, difficulty breathing, headache, dizziness, etc. Some who identified themselves as being possessed by it began doing odd things. Most of these were mistakenly attributed by the tabloid press, but afterwards some even began to call the mental issues arising from the Hinamizawa tragedy the Hinamizawa syndrome. The Hinamizawa village region, the object of all kinds of rumors and speculation, is currently closed off, and even flying overhead is prohibited. The prohibition was, at one point, undone as a result of decrease in the gas's density. That autumn, another gas burst was confirmed, leading to the area being cordoned off again. Whereas that the area is sound asleep, all traces of its former life intact and left to rot. Interesting. Only one survivor remains, Keiichi Maebara, aged, who lived at Hinamizawa village. At the time of rescue, he had some trouble breathing due to fluid buildup in his lungs, but as a result of life-saving procedures, he was kept alive. He is currently in a general hospital somewhere in the prefecture. The press have been asking for him for some time, but all interviews are being refused. What did he see in Hinamizawa? What happened between June 21st and June 22nd in Hinamizawa village? Today he remains silent, unwilling to speak of it. Oh, is there an epilogue? The Great Hinamizawa Disaster in Memoriam List. Oh. Jiro Tomitake, real name real name. Possibly committed suicide, investigation suspended. Strangled to death in the mountains, body was found burnt to a crisp. Went missing during investigation. Irie committed suicide, Furore, murder at the shrine. And then the gas disaster. Reina Ryugyu, Miyo Sonozaki, Oryo Sonozaki, Satoko Hojo went missing. Tepe also went missing. Oh, they both went missing on the same night. Oh no, June 22nd, duh. Never mind. Chie went missing. Died in an accident. Kameda died in an accident while fleeing. Wow. Died in the victim's hospital. Shion Sonozaki committed suicide. Damn. Keiichi attempted suicide. Diagnosed with severe mental disorder. Damn. And then the actual credits. God damn. That's very interesting. That really leaves a lot of like. See, that's the thing. There were some people say like my reaction to the ending of the second chapter, like, oh, dude, if you think that's crazy, the fucking third chapter is gonna be even crazier. Like, I don't think this one is like near as like whoa, what the fuck. It's very interesting though. Really makes me curious as to if this is a chapter specific detail or if this is something I should definitely keep in the back of my mind going forward. Like, should I be operating with the thought that there is 2003, whoa, 20 years later? An elderly couple living in Osaka Prefecture discovered a cassette tape while organizing the possessions of their son, who passed away 8 years ago. Their son went missing when his fishing boat capsized in 1995. He was 47 at the time of his death. 8 years later, in 2003, they had begun to organize their son's remains. In order to organize their minds, he came across the cassette tape in question. From 1975 to 1989, the deceased had experienced working as a journalist for a photography periodical, and this tape is thought to have been created during that time. The label on the tape read 11/28/1983, Keiichi Maibara. It is thought that the taper was recording during an interview with Keiichi Maibara, the only survivor of the great Hinamizawa disaster that occurred in June of 1983. As the only person who lived through the disaster of the night of June 21st, shrouded in mystery, many interested parties attempted to question him, but he never once spoke physically to anyone in a public place. Therefore, the tape caused quite a stir, possibly being of extremely high value.
なんだか録音されてると思うと。
気にしない気にしない。ほら、こうすれば録音してるのも気にならないでしょ。
After this, the sound quality dramatically decreases. Do you cover the recording device with something?
じゃあ始めるね。まず最初の圭一君は大
神社から裏に抜けて吊り橋があるんです。山に入る少し前にそこから落ちて。
それは大災害の夜、つまり。
いいえ、21日のそれで次の日の昼間に目を覚ま。
どうしてそんなところに？誰もが持つ疑問だけど、当日は平日で、しかもざっくばらんに言って。君が大災害の発生を事前に知っていて。
Now, how in the fuck would he know of the disaster beforehand? I knew of the and like, if you knew of the disaster beforehand, why would you jump off a fucking bridge about it? Like, if I knew of the disaster beforehand, sure, it'd be like selfish to get your own ass to safety and not worry about anyone else. But fucking hell, my guy, like, I can think of better ways to escape it than fucking jumping off a bridge.
村から逃げる途中に吊り橋から落ちたんじゃないかっていう声もあるんだけど。
冗談じゃないです。勝手なことを言わないでください。
私も随分ひどい気を悪くしないでね。さて、次に圭一君が落ちたと神社の裏から林道を抜けて至る吊り橋。
多分、俺もあんまり行かないところな。
そんなに行かないところにどうして平日の朝に行ったのか。それで、この君が気絶していたという河原なんだけど。実
はありえない。またありえないですか。まだ。
For a little while, Keiichi Maibara mutters the word impossible several times.
どうして？
火山ガスが発生したのは鬼ヶ淵という沼なのは知ってるよね。それで学者の先生が緻密な模型を使って、例の火山ガスってのは空気よりも重いらしくて。
Oh, which means it would have sunk.
地形に沿って低いところへ流れ込む水みたいな性質があるんだってさ。
So yeah, you would have been safer the higher up you were.
それで発生源の鬼ヶ淵沼からそういうガスが噴出し、そしたらさ、君が気絶して流れ込むんだよ、ガス。
よく言ってる意味がわからないんですが。
Interesting. Fuck. Oh, is this where the big plot
つ
twist?
まり君が本当にこの河原で気絶していたなら、だからつまり君がここで気絶をしていた可能性は否定されたわけさ。もっとざっくばらんに、私はね、君が嘘をついているんじゃないかな。君は大災害の時、安全なところに身を潜めていて、ガスが薄れた頃合いを見計らって、どうかな？図星かな？
For a short time, the journalist presses Keiichi Maibata further in a teasing way, but all that can be heard are heavy sighs.
驚かないとはどういう意味だい？
あんたもさっき言いましたよね。
Was this recording really taken of Keiichi Maibata? Some harbor suspicions.
ありえないって、あのHinamizawaでは。ありえないことなんて、死んだはずの人が、そんなこと、まさか俺自身が死んだはずなのに生きているってやつを立証しようとはね。
The journalist and Keiichi Maibata both laugh for a while. To verify its
じゃあ、ケイ
authenticity,
チ君、話を変えるよ。
I had others in the Maibara family check the tapes with his voice in it. However, the sound was not clear and much time had passed, so the relatives I checked with couldn't remember what he sounded like. I was unable to gain positive proof it was actually his voice.
あの大災害が、Hinamizawa連続開始事件の。
いや、5年目のたたりは俺ですから。
え？何のこと？
何のことって、あんたの話に対する答えですよ。あの大災害は、まあ、言っても信じないでしょうけど。
Doubts also remain regarding the date 11/28 written on the tape. Right, that would have been about 5 months after the incident.
俺が起こしたんです。俺がね、こんな村。
そりゃ、
公開？そういう面白い言い方もあるんですね。高野さんも俺が殺したし、監督も大石も俺が殺した。
After Maibata Keiichi's failed suicide attempt on a certain August day, 2 months after the disaster, he was diagnosed with a mental disorder and transported to a treatment facility. Okay, so either this interview took place in the treatment facility, which seems unlikely, or it was actually conducted beforehand.
あの時の俺にはね、そう。例えるなら。
足音って、なんだいそれ。
あんた、足音を聞いたこともないんですか？
Have you never heard footsteps before?
ペタペタ、ひたひた。あんたも今日からは歩いてるとき、不意に立ち止まってみると面白いですよ。
The facility never allowed any news coverage, so it was extremely unlikely that a tape from the media dated after August 1983 would have his voice on it.
それでね、自分がちゃんと立ち止まったにもかかわらず、気をつけた方がいい。
そうだね。
そんなに俺、面白いこと話してますか？あんた、さっきからヘラヘラと笑ってばかりですね。
However, the reporter had been criticized for his forceful methods of collecting data while he was active, so there's still a possibility that he broke into the facility and forced Keiichi Maibata to talk.
監督と同じだ。俺のことを同情したり、話を聞いたりしてるふり。いや、あんたの目は監督と同じだ。あの日以来、もう足音は聞こえない。
Is this truly Keiichi Maibata's voice? The authenticity of this recording is still wrapped in
だ
mystery.
から俺にはもう、今ここでもう一度、俺に不愉快な話ばかりを。そうだな。高野さんは焼け死にだったから、水に溺れて死ぬってのはどうだい？絶好調だった当時の俺なら、次の朝までには必ず死んでる。
15 years after this tape was created, the reporter, just as Keiichi Maibata had predicted, died in an accident out on the sea.
さてあんたは、何日あんたも気をつけろ。俺ごときにたたり殺されるな。
The recording ends in the middle of Keiichi Maebara's laughter. And Keiichi Maebara... Go on. Late on the night of November 30th, 1983, 2 days after the interview, he suddenly died from a high fever, cause unknown. Records remain of the strange words he kept giving after pressing the call button the day before he died. An extra set of footsteps.
また一つ余計に。
Oh-ho! Very interesting. Okay. So they're still trying to kind of like guide you along the line of like, oh, maybe it is something supernatural. Yeah, the all cast review section. Interesting. Interesting. Okay. Okay. Wow. Because like the whole gas leak thing, like that's very interesting to consider that angle of it, right? And see how that could affect things and like why his memory has never really been truly reliable. And especially in this chapter, why there's very large chunks missing from his memory. And why they would have found that Mion was dead before in chapter 2 before Keiichi got shanked, but that's because Keiichi hadn't moved out of Hinamizawa yet. So that is a thing. That is a thing. Clearly, this massive gas eruption doesn't happen every time because it didn't happen in chapter 2, right? Because Keiichi kept living several months on afterwards. At least we believe so. But this was never mentioned or anything like it. However, that doesn't mean the gas isn't present, right? Because clearly when Keiichi was stabbed, he hallucinated someone else stabbing him because Mion was already dead. At least from what Oishi tells us, and Oishi is another one that we can't 100% trust for sure. Very interesting. Very interesting. The natural gas angle opens up a lot of things to consider now. I'm very excited to see where we go with the next chapter, but for now, all cast review. Let's see it.
この度も日暮の泣く頃に睡たたり殺しを最後までお楽しみいただき、これまでのシナリオとは少し違う雰囲気でお送りしましたが、いかがだったでしょうか。お楽しみいただけたなら幸いです。
It was very interesting.
今回も胸のすくような私個人としては大災害が実際に起こった時の惨劇の描写も欲しかったところだけど。
No. What the fuck?
みんなのか
そんなわけありませんでしたよ。またしてもまたしても大大大バッドエンド。
バッドエンド。
あれれバッドエンドって割にはみーちゃんは楽っていうか、もう笑うしかないってのが本音でしょうね。
毎回嫌な割り方がエスカレートすると思ったら、とうとうここまで行き着いちゃったわけですからね。
Like, I don't know how you could reach an ending worse than that. Quite honestly.
みんな仲良しで死んじゃ仲良しなのです。ニパー。
そういう見方。毎回死んでる僕はもうごめんだな。たまには死なずにエンドを迎えたいね。
富武さんって時報みたいな役割なんですよね。富武さんが死んだら、あ、後半戦突入だみたいな。さて、ではここで 今回の会合に改めてご参加、拍手でお迎えください。まずは監督こと入江京介さん。
ご紹介に預かりまして、どうもどうも。脇役だったわけですが、トータルで見てみるとかなり美味しい役だったなぁなんて思ってます。
本当です。脇役にしては出番もセリフも多すぎで、しかもキャラが強すぎましたよ。
今後どれだけ出番があるかは分かりませんが、その説は応援よろしくお願いしますね。
ありがとうございます。では次に我らが担任、知恵ルミ子先生。
She didn't debut in this one.
皆さん、いろいろと登場シーンもあったのですが、今回カレー勝負で目立つシーンをいただきまして。
No, the Curry Showdown was chapter 2. Yeah. Right? I'm almost certain. Hold up. Hold up. Brain. I'm almost certain the Curry Showdown was chapter 2. They referenced the Curry Showdown in this one, but it wasn't actually part of this chapter, was it? Hmm.
カレーをバカにする人は許せません。ええ。誰もバカになんてして、あ、千恵先生に席を空けてあげてください。
Am I misremembering shit? Am I? I don't feel like I am. But maybe I am? Fuck, 1 second. I wanna go back through and look at my well, give me a moment. give me a moment here. Let me go back and look, because I don't think I referenced it in any of my video titles, but I'm just curious if I can like look back at my videos and see if like I can look at any one of them and be like, oh shit, it was this one, right? Okay, content, show me the videos. So definitely wouldn't have been. No, I can't say for certain which one it would be. Fuck. I don't know. I don't know for sure which one it is. I think it might be this one. I think it might have been part 9. Because like the thumbnail is like when they're all in the storehouse, you know, on the night of Tatarigoroshi, but I feel like it would have been before that, which I know is towards the end of the video, but I think the curry scene might have been before that. I think. God, I swear the curry showdown was not in this chapter.
さて、これでとりあえず全員揃ったね。レナ、また乾杯をよろしくね。では皆さん、各宅のコップをお持ちになってください。お飲み物はいろいろありますよ。
本当にお疲れ様会も賑やく。今何人ぐらいいるんです？
私たちを加えて多分10人くらいは。
未成年人と成年人の人数比がこれで胸を張ってアルコールが飲めるね。
ビールってなんで冷えてるとあんなに美味しいのに、七不思議の一つよね。
なんででしょうね。
さあビールを継ぎますよ。
ビール。
12345あれ、大人は6人でしたっけ？
僕も泡麦茶がいいのです。 リカちゃんもお酒はダメ。
ではレナさん、そろそろお願いします。
はいはい、皆さんご成長ですわよ。では皆さん、日暮らしの泣く頃に乾杯。せーの、乾杯。
Yay, clap, 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 clap.
さあ、では毎回恒例の
Yeah, let's get to the meat of the matter.
議論でもやってみますかね。
とは言ったものの、今回のシナリオもケムに巻かれっぱなし。意見のある方は挙手をお願いしますね。
お、みんな挙手ないね。じゃあ私が先陣を。申し訳ないんだけど、もう少しミステリアスな感じの。
I like that. It's like, oh, excuse me. Soundtrack change. Thank you. Appreciate it.
ああ、これがいいわね。
ムードが出まくりなのです。では高野さん、お願いします。
多分ね、たたり殺しのシナリオだけを吟味しても
True.
謎は解けないんじゃないかと思うの。
そりゃどうかんだ。ここまで物語が重なればそういう仕掛けがある。
そんな仕掛けありましたかしら。
これが正しい。鬼隠しで前原くんが大石さんとレストランで食事をして、それが園崎さんに知られていて不思議だったってくだりがありますよね。
Correct.
鬼隠しだけだと実に不思議な出来事ですけど、綿流しを読めば別に不思議でも何でもないことがわかります。
Right. Each chapter shines a bit more light on the story as a whole. No one chapter truly gives away everything.
劇中の私が入ったレストランは園崎系列の店だったということですね。園崎一族はこの辺りの飲食店や
で、ケイちゃんの顔を知る者があの店にいて、それを私に伝えたと、そういうことだね。
日暮の物語は大筋の設定においては多分4つのシナリオ。例えばキャラクター設定。
鬼隠しのレナは怖い人だけど、レナはレナで4つのシナリオに全く変わらない設定で出演しているということ。
全く変わらない設定というのはどうか。僕がどのシナリオでも常に同じ場所で同じ死に方をするのは
Has to keep coming back to that. Yeah. One thing that's incredibly consistent is the fact that I keep dying the same exact way, the same exact time.
どんな物語になっても必ず同じ日に。
綿流し編でお祭りの最中に高野さんと富武さんが西宮殿に忍び込むというシーンがありますけど。
Right, there's different explanations. There's different different ways the story presents as to why they might have died. Right? In chapters 1, there's not really any explanation other than Oyashiro attacks the outsiders. Then in chapter 2, it has them breaking into the storehouse. In chapter 3, they kind of imply that Takano had been the one to kill Tomitake. So there's various reasons, but the one consistent is that Tomitake dies in the way he does. You could probably view that as an actual fact of the story. Whatever the truth behind the story is, that's probably an undeniable fact because that's been one constant throughout each chapter that has never changed at all. Right? Because in chapter 1, Takano disappears, we never see her again, but in chapter 2 and 3, she's burnt alive in the mountains, but that's not a detail that's consistent. However, Tomitake's death is consistent through and through.
あのシーンも他のシナリオでは描かれなかっただけで起こったことになっているのかもしれませんね。
That is true.
なっているそうです。
Because that is true. That actually, yeah. Because in the first chapter, Tomitake and Takano appear by the river after they had done the cotton drifting and whatnot, right? Or towards the end of it. It was after Keiichi put his cotton into the river and whatnot, and then shortly after his friends kind of clear out well, not his friends, this thing, he had been kind of like separated from his friends, just kind of following the crowd from what I remember. But like the last few people left there are Tomitake and Takano, and you could then draw the assumption that maybe they did sneak into it again. And the same could be said about chapter 3, as Keiichi never actually went to the festival, so there still could be the assumption that they snuck in. It might have not have been shown to us, but there's no reason to believe it didn't happen.
綿流し当日のお天気や部活の内容、聡子のおじさんの帰宅など、いくつかのイベントを除けばほとんどが共通するそうです。
だとすると、全く同じ環境で語られる物語なのに、なぜああも違う物語に派生するのか。
See, that's the thing. I'm starting to... I don't know. I don't think it would take the same approach as Umineko did. Because with Umineko, like the first few chapters, well, several of the episodes are like essentially other people's ideas for what happened on the island. Right? They're not the truth of what happened. They're these, dramatic retellings of what people, of various people's theories of what could have happened, or why things turned out the way they did and whatnot. I don't know if that's quite the case with Higurashi. I imagine they take it in a different direction, but that is kind of like, that's where my brain automatically wants to go, is to like the Umineko approach of like, they're different people's ways of explaining like how various things happened.
一般的なサスペンスアドベンチャーの視点で考えると、物語が派生する分岐点が存在したってことになりますね。
True, though in this adventure game there's no choices to be made. But if we think about the protagonist's choices, he chose not to go to the festival in chapter 3. He chose not to watch Rika's performance in chapter 2. Those are like key like branching points, you could say, right? In chapter 2, he was swayed by Shion to not watch Rika's performance. In chapter 3, he straight up did not attend the festival altogether. And it leads the story down different paths.
綿流しで言うと、お姉に人形を渡した、あるいは渡さなかったというあたり？
Right, that was a major turning point for that chapter as a whole. I was kind of thinking of that as well.
あんな序盤の選択肢1個でバッド確定とは、恐ろしい選択肢だね。
では、たたり殺しに話を戻しますと、この場合です。
私はずっとそれ以前、同居人の女性がトラブルで失踪して、おじがHinamizawaに帰ってくることになったあたりから、もう分岐しちゃってると思うわね。
では、一番最初の鬼隠しの分岐はどこなのですか？
That is true. I've been kind of thinking of like how chapter 2 and 3 differed from chapter 1, but clearly chapter 1 had a bad ending as well. So if we think of it as like, a classic, choice-based game, what would be the choice that led to a bad ending? It probably would have been talking with Oishi in the car, maybe?
やはり劇中の私が登場してお社様のたたりに関する連続開始事件のことを話すあたり、
今思ったんですけれど、ちゃんと圭一さんがミョンさん、それで大石さんも私のおじさんも現れなかったら何も起こらずに平和に過ごせるってことなんじゃありませんの？
On the surface, it definitely seems that way. On the surface, it definitely seems that way. I feel like there's definitely more.
へえ、聡子にしちゃ確かに言えてる。
じゃあ この暗い物語は園崎さんのご機嫌を損ねないようにすればみんな。
イエーイ、お姉バッドエンド用意。みんな気をつけてね。お姉の機嫌を損ねるとバッドエンドかの。何よそれ。シオン、あんたには次は容赦なく痛い目見させてやるからね。泣いた謝ったって許してやるもんか。待てこら
これまでの物語の謎は全然解けないけど、どうやったらこの物語が大団円で終わるかのグッドエンドの推理はできちゃいましたね。
Is that the direction chapter 4 is going to go in? Where it's going to show us like, no, there's still something we're missing. Like, oh no, you can give the doll to Mion. And oh, yeah, no, the uncle didn't come back to Hinamizawa. Oishi never shows up. Like, there's still a catalyst that turns things. That'd be interesting. Give us more to think about. That's the thing, we're still in the first half. Chapter 4 is still in the first half of things. There's still more pieces they gotta give us till we can solve this puzzle. And then if we haven't, I mean, typically from what I understand, if you haven't quite pieced the pieces together, I guess, I don't know. Pieced the puzzle together, is that the phrase? There's a fucking phrase, whatever. If you haven't quite gotten the general idea of things, the back half is when they start to like, help you put the pieces together. Like, if you haven't quite figured things out. That's what I'm thinking. Chapter 4 might take that approach then and be like, oh, if you think this is what gets you a happy ending, like, we'll go this way. But it doesn't get us to a happy ending. There's still a key aspect we're not factoring in.
大石さんと北条哲平さん、ミオンさんのお人形、本当にそれさえ気をつければいいんですかね。
No, there's gotta be something else.
そうそう。みんなは一つ、Hinamizawa大災害という天災を忘れたかい？
天才は村のみんなにガスマスクを配って引っ越しでもしますの？あれはきっとお社様のたたりなのです。だからお社様を怒らせないようにしなければならないのですよ。
ややこしい話。つまりお社様を怒らせないためにはどうすればいいのでしたっけ？
ダムの計画そのものが、ダム計画がそもそもなければよかったんじゃないでしょうか。
I don't think.
それは。
Yeah.
だとしたら、お怒りになったお社様を鎮める儀式が必要ね。
鬼ヶ淵の沼に捧げ物を沈めるあの儀式ですね。
捧げ物って何をお社？
そりゃあ決まってるでしょう。どんな分岐にも関係なく話の流れから脱落が確定している人だよ。
食べたけ。
どうせ死ぬならHinamizawaのための人柱になってもらわなくちゃね。
その脱落が確定している人ってやっぱり僕のことかな。
I love that fucking sound. Oh, that was perfect.
やっぱり二郎さんはこの物語に欠かせない重要な役割の人だと信じてたわ。お役目を立派に果たしてちょうだい。
これで今度こそグッドエンドの大団円シナリオの青写真ができましたね。
Yeah, all we gotta do. Yo, we give Mion the doll. The uncle doesn't come back. Oishi avoids the village, and we throw Tabitaka in the swamp. I mean, all good, right?
せっかくだからちょっとやってみましょうか。役者は全員揃ってることですしね。
First, we stop Uncle Hojo, whose lover ran out on him from returning to Hinamizawa.
いやー、私が北条おじですよ。はいはーい。早くHinamizawaに帰って里子ちゃんをお持ち帰りして、ではHinamizawaにバイクで帰りますか。キーを入れてカチカチ。
Yeah, let's just fucking set up a car bomb on his bike, sure.
先輩、廃人に着せでございますわよ。さとこちゃん、火薬の量多すぎじゃないかな。
Next, we stop Oishi from showing up.
今度は 私の名前ジャジーでブルースな
Another car bomb.
成敗なのです。そして忘れちゃいけないのがお姉お姉可愛らしいお人形よかったでちゅね。なんだか納得いかない。
で最後にお社様の怒りを鎮め。
では最後のお役目よろしくね。
踏んじばってすまきにして吊るし3日かけて沈めるんでしたっけ。
面倒くさいですからここは一気にいっちゃいましょう。
ガボガボガボガボガボ。
これにて一件落着。
The end.
突然レナの腕が光ってうなって大変なことに。獅子類類で大変なことになってますのです。あれ、電話だ。もしもし。ケイチくん、お疲れ様です。
おうおう、相変わらず大盛り上がりみたいじゃね。こっちは次回の台本読みで。まあいいや、今日の俺は機嫌がいいから嫌味はなしにしてやるぜ。
Is he actually going to show up in like the 8th chapter, right? From the final all cast review section? Because he won't have another scenario to review for the next time.
シオンはいるか。もう行っちまってもいいんじゃないか。あれ
今ここで発表しとはいえもうすでに分かってる人たち。シオンさんとケイイチさんの二人っきりの聞いてない聞いてない聞いてない。
The main character of the next story will be Shion Sonozaki. Interesting. God damn it, of course it will be. I started off this chapter, of course, being like, oh god, a Satoko focused chapter? There's no way. And then they actually turned me around on it. I'm like, god, if they made me fucking love Satoko. There's no way they could do that with Shion, though. And now they're like, oh yeah? Well, guess who's fucking leading the next chapter, baby? No. Yeah, you're gonna have to. I'm be honest. You're gonna have to put in mad work for me to turn around on Shio, and I'm gonna be quite honest. Satoko, like, she was already like goofy. I liked her as a comedic relief character. She was a bit annoying the first couple of chapters, but you gave her a really heartfelt, endearing backstory in this one. Like, really turned me around on her. Shio, and you gotta put in mad work because she's not even fun as like a comedic relief character. She's just fucking annoying.
まあつまり初登場以来ダントツの人気ナンバーワン。
Did she? Obviously, I have no idea. I was definitely not present for any popularity charts as these episodes were coming out, but like, if so, that's sad. That's depressing. What do you mean people liked Shion? What do you mean she was a fucking fan favorite? Nah, that's bullshit. Fuck y'all.
姉妹キャラでも遅れ登場した片割れの方が絶対に人気が出るってのはギャルゲー全盛時代から決められたお約束ですし。
わけわかんねえことはどうでもいい。とにかく俺はそのシナリオでは主人公のお役ごめん。風の噂じゃ俺のボイスを超えてるとか。へっへん。俺の苦労を少しは思い知れ。
まあケイちゃんのボイス数は異常ですから、まあ園崎姉妹の実力ってやつをとくと皆さんにお見せして差し上げますよ。でもいいんですのシオン。主人公は毎回ろくでもない最後を迎えると決まってましたよ。まあこれまではでもね、次回からは必ずしもそうはならないんですよね。日暮の泣く頃に睡も今回ミステリアスな謎を次々と提示してきた次の章からはこれまでの謎に挑み、そしてさらなるドラマの幕開けとなります。つまり私が名探偵になって理不尽な謎をバスバス解決していく痛快ストーリーなわけです。
No.
今のうちから決め台詞を考えておかないとね。あなたを見たいな。納得いかない。 御三家の秘密に近づきすぎて閉じ込められていたぶ悲惨な最後を遂げる役に決まってる。お姉こそ私に全ての謎と秘密をカンパされて謝罪の言葉を口にしながら自害なされる心の準備は OK です。
お社様のたたりの可能性はなしなのですか？さて、そのしーちゃんが主役の目明かしに進むためには新しい警察資料が必要です。はじめからを選んでゲームを開始すると、主人公に死を鬼隠し、綿流し、この3つのシナリオを重ね透かして推理はまとまるどころか、ますます煙に巻かれていくだけ。
A mix of both. I have both questions and theories. Though I would love some more information if you don't mind.
レナも全然わからないです。
For all of you warriors who never yielded to the 3 mysteries and kept on fighting, we present you with one final scenario as thanks for your enthusiasm. One which we never originally planned on giving to you. Please enjoy it. What? A scenario we never planned on giving to you? What the fuck does that mean? I don't know, but that's the end of chapter 3. Interesting. Very interesting. Like, the ending didn't quite, like, blow me away, like, whoa, what the fuck, but definitely presented a lot of interesting factors to consider when thinking about, like, what the truth of the matter might be. And that's also a very interesting way to look at, like, what the story might be telling you is, like, what choices are being made that leads to these outcomes. Is there a string of decisions that leads to a perfect outcome for the village, for the characters? Very interesting. Very interesting. So, like, I'm not gonna lie, I was excited for chapter 4, but then not only is it Shion focused, she's the main character, which definitely lessens my hype for the next chapter, but I am very curious to see how the story continues to unfold. And I guess they're claiming that the answer arcs start with 4, which is interesting, knowing that there's 8 chapters. Very interesting. Very interested to see what comes from this next chapter then. If it's supposed to start, putting pieces together, I'm very curious to see what pieces get put together. But I suppose this is where I end this one here for today. So, in the next recording, we will start into chapter 4. We'll see if Shion can be redeemed in my eyes, but for now, thank you all for watching. It's much appreciated, and hopefully I'll see you all in the next video. Until then, peace.